G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, November 7th, 2022. And as always, great to have you along for another big episode of Talking Boxing. It has been a pretty big weekend, of course. We've had the three big Aussie shows. We had Justice Huni, Kiki Lutelli. We had Taylor Robinson and Shay Osmanoa, which was the Tasman Fighters card. The Justice Huni one was DNL. And then the Sonny Bill Williams, Mark Hunt show, which was on Stan. I'm not sure who promoted that, but it was on Stan Sports. And of course, the world news, not a hell of a lot, a couple of things happening, but we'll go over that. But the big thing I want to do tonight is go over the Herald Sun Top 50. Now, if you're not familiar with the Herald Sun, it is the biggest newspaper in Melbourne, so if from interstate or overseas, of course. It is the biggest news publication in Melbourne, Victoria, whatever you might want to say. And they did a top 50. Now, I know I've only just recently, a couple of weeks ago, did my top 10s on the males and females, but they forced my hand. I'm going to go through it. We're going to dissect it and have a discussion. Now, as far as discussion goes, if you're not aware, this is your show. I've got my agenda to go through, but if you've got a question, a comment, or a topic that you want to go over, put it in the comment section there. What I'm also going to do, which is an even better feature we have here, is... where are we? If you would like to actually come on the show, I'm going to put the link in the description now. There it is. It's come up. So if you actually want to come on and discuss something on the show with me, then come on. Don't be shy. What happens is you click on the link, put in your details, you go into a little waiting room or virtual waiting room, and then you will you'll come in and I'll click the button and in you come. All right. Yes, James, you're 100%, mate. Right, I should say 100% correct. They copied us, the Herald Sun. Yes, well, is it just coincidence it's a week or two after I did mine that they brought it out? They weren't game enough to do the male and female, though, I will say. They did it all in one. So, as I said, even though I've done the male and female, I'm going to do, well, we'll go through it. I'm then going to bring up my top 25. Now, the reason I'm not going to do a top 50, and the top 25, by the way, is a mixture of guys and girls like the Herald Sun did. The reason I'm not going to go to 50 is because really, you could probably, for the next 25 or 26 to 50, you could probably have about 40 to 50 fighters. You could throw a blanket over on any particular day, any particular argument, whatever you might want to say. There's so many intangibles involved, so I'm going to leave. It's just impossible to do a 26 to 50. The guy that's done it, as I said, his name is Jamie Pandaram. I've done a little bit of research on Jamie because I've never heard of him, especially in boxing circles. Apparently, he does a wide variety of sports: boxing, UFC, tennis. I think he's done a bit of swimming as well. So it sounds like he's a bit of a jack of all trades. So he's done it. I'm going to let you have your say on his and mine. So actually, the good thing about this is, I will say before we get into the show, with the top 50. All right, so what he's done is his top 50, and it's given everyone the ability to rank, whether they agree, whether they disagree, or whether they're underrated or overrated. So, you know, it's really good. So we're going to go through his top 50, which might raise a few eyebrows out there. Certainly did mine. But then they have the readers' top 50, which is probably a little bit more reflective of maybe what you guys think. There's a couple of really big surprises in there as well. All right, Tara Louise. Amazing how many times I've seen Lyndon do something and someone else follows. Yeah, well, that's what happens. Jamie Pandam's obviously watching our show. So yeah, look, end of the day, look, I'm assuming it's just coincidence, but look, end of the day, it's good discussion, and it's probably a little bit earlier than what I thought to actually go over the whole thing again, but it's their fault, so I'm going to go over it. All right, so on to the shows in Australia over the weekend. There was, as I said before, there was 3 shows. Again, put your comments and questions in the comment section. I'll put the link in there, so if you want to come on, click it, and in you'll come. All right, so on Friday night, we had Justice Huni, Kiki Lutelli. I think it was at the Nissan Arena, this one. Great, was it? Whatever it was. It was in Brisbane. Great fight. Justice Huni got the decision win, but it was a tough fight for Justice. He won it quite comprehensively in the end. He won it 99-91, 97-93, 98-92. So, look, I probably had it around the same way. Look, even though a lot of the rounds were close, well, they were close-ish, but not close enough to give Lutelli the rounds, I thought. But one thing that was for sure, each round was tough. Justice Honey felt the pace. You could see, I think, what he was trying to do, you could sort of see from the start, he was trying to make a statement. There's obviously been a lot of discussion about his power, which I think is unwarranted. I think he's got enough power to get through. Usyk's a classic example. Holyfield wasn't a big puncher. Spinks wasn't a big puncher. They get through on a lot more than just power. So all that aside, but I think he'd been reading the press, watching social media, whatever it might be. Justin Fortune obviously hit it on the head. I'm not sure whether you've seen that, but he, in those uncertain terms, let everyone know his opinion on Justice's power, and he's probably in a good position to make a call, I would say, having been working with Justice over the last few months. I think he went out there and he probably went a bit too hard, although his endurance was really, really good, I must say, because he went really hard right through the 10 rounds, and it was a tough pace. But I'll tell you, what a tough warrior he was. Justice, as I said, he pretty much won, I would say, 8, worst case 7 rounds, I would have thought, in the scheme of things. But each round was tough, and obviously Justice with his hand at the end. Maybe it's an example why he can't really go for those big knockouts. Lara Harry Garside has had hand problems as well. But look, really good performance by Justice. I think Latelli really brought it. We all saw that what Latelli did with Dempsey McKean when he fought him, gave him a real good fight and had him almost on the ropes of being stopped or hurt, whatever you might want to call it. But Justice dug deep. Really good matchup for him, I thought. Really good fight for this stage of his career. And, I rate Justice so highly. I've actually, with that performance, revised my top 10 a little bit anyway, but again, we'll get to that. But, look, a really, really good performance by Justice. Shane, what do you got there, mate? Competitive, some close rounds, but Honey did more than enough. Yeah, I agree, mate. He did, as I said before, every round was tough and hard. You had to dig deep, but it was really hard to give Latelli more than a couple of rounds, I would have thought. Look, he came out really, really well, I would have thought. I must admit, at the end of it, I was a little bit worried that Latelli's trainer was going to cause some sort of stunt. Of course, if you haven't seen the lead up to it, very, very vocal. Didn't trust the judges, called Australian officials cheats, said that he'd knocked Justice Honey out, and all the rest of it. I was a little bit worried that if the decision obviously went Justice's way, that he would carry on a little bit and call foul, blue murder, whatever you want to call it. But he was actually quite good. Mind you, this is a guy, by the way, this is an international boxing trainer who jumps into the ring with thongs on. So, I don't know, make of it what you will. I would have thought there was some sort of dress code. I know in the amateurs, they're really, really onto that sort of stuff. You've got to have shoes on, no hats, all that sort of stuff. I'm not stressed about the hats, but I must admit I was very, very surprised when I saw him jump in the ring with thongs on. So obviously a very, very laid-back guy. On the top 50, James. Lyndon equals male and female. Herald Sun combined male-female. Yeah, I'm not a female boxing fan besides Shannon O'Connell. Yeah, look, for the sake of the exercise, James, I agree with you, but I am going to do a combined one because that's what they did. I'm just going to compare my top 25 to their top 25 to the readers' top 25 and your top 25, and let's just see how we go. But look, it's a really, really tough gig, I will say, and look, there is some big surprises in there, and I think sometimes, especially with the fans or the readers' point of view, sometimes it comes down to more favourite fighters rather than really having a good look at it and saying, well, who's really better than the next guy? One thing I will say it's really hard is it based on accomplishments versus natural ability or a little bit of both. I've gone for a couple of surprises in my top 25 that might just raise a few eyebrows with some of you guys out there. But at the end of the day, these are quality fighters who've only had a handful of fights. And I think if you're going for a legitimate top 25 or top 50, they've just got to be in the mix. Because there's other guys they've got in there that have had maybe a lot of fights, but maybe aren't necessarily, let's just say, world class. All right, so Andy is in the house. How are you, mate? Hello, fans, Lyndon and chat. Yep, don't forget to like and subscribe. So that's fine. Now, yes, I have tried to do the old hashtag and all that sort of stuff. I'm learning. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be one of those things where word's got to get out and people have got to decide for themselves whether they're going to tune in. But all you guys and girls that are out there watching, thank you. Andy, what did you miss? Quick overview. I'm going to go over I'm in the process going over now the Justice Honey card, Saturday night's Taylor Robinson, Conor Wallace card, or the Tasman card, Mark Hunt, Sonny Bill Williams, little bit of the world scene, of course, Dmitry Bivol. And then the big one tonight is the Herald Sun top 50. Not sure what state you're in, Andy. If you're not in Victoria, the Herald Sun, the major newspaper in Victoria, did a top 50. I'm going to go through it, give you guys a look at it, and see what the reporter chose, and then what the fans chose, and then what I chose, and then that's really what you guys chose. So, all right, guys. So again, just on Justice 20, really excited about what Justice brings to the table. I've got no doubt, knowing what Dean Lonergan's like and Dean L, I've got no doubt that I think within the next 12 months you're going to see him get a big fight. I'm talking maybe a top 10 or 12 heavyweight in the world at the moment. Might even be even sooner. Obviously, his hand's going to have to heal, so that's going to be a bit of a fly in the ointment, and that could be a 6-month injury. I hope not, because he hasn't really had much luck on the injury front, has he? So, yeah, it's really tough on Justice, but seeing the size of the hand, I did see that Jeff Horn and Harry Garside both commented after the telecast that they would prefer if he had ligament damage rather than a broken hand. Now, I've never had a broken hand or ligament damage for whatever reason when I had my 100-odd fights as amateur. A little bit different. The gloves are different, shorter distances, all that sort of stuff, and a lot smaller, obviously. Justice, obviously, a big man, those small gloves, 10 rounds. That Latelli had a head like a brick. So, so who knows? But yeah, as I said, they said break would be better than a ligaments, but even if it's broken, you would think it'd be 4, 5, 6 months. He's got to probably have it in a cast for probably a couple of months, and then rehab, and then ease back into it, and then he's got to get his fight fitness, all that sort of stuff. So I'm hoping it's not the case, but I don't know. They didn't seem too concerned about it afterwards, but obviously they've got to get the scans or whatever they do, and we'll see. But fingers crossed, because I think he's got so much to offer, and is just going to be a legitimate star of world boxing. I've got no doubt. On the top 50, James, I'm working on top 50 Aussie men. Well, good luck with that. I can't understand how male and female are on the same list. They should be separate. Yeah, I agree, mate, and we've talked about it. My lists were separate. I think female boxing is strong enough to have its own. Male boxing, of course, is booming as well. Aussie boxing in general is booming at the moment, so... but it is a little bit hard, and you'll probably see with my list, it is difficult to sort of then blend the girls and guys into each other. It's not easy. Look, it's impossible. The amount of feedback I got from my list a couple of weeks ago, good and bad, or mainly good, I will say. 99% of it was good, but there are a couple that weren't overly impressed. But it's just so hard to... Is it basic ability? Is it accomplishments? Is it potential? There's so many things to throw in there. Is like the George Kambosos argument I had with a gentleman on Instagram about it. Having got because George was number 4, but at the end of the day, he's lost his last 2 fights, and regardless who they're against. Or do you put that aside and say, no, the Lopez fight trumps it all, and he's back, he's in the top 2 or 3? I don't know. That's why we debate the point. Andy, remote Northern Territory. Wow. So I've got a feeling you don't know anything about the Herald Sun, but you're in luck, because I'm going to bring it up in a second, or once we get through all the news, and we're all going to go through it together. Maybe not bit by bit. We'll see how we go. See how we're going for time. But hey, mate, thanks for joining in all the way from Northern Territory. Hopefully the internet's okay for you up there. All right, guys. So on the undercard, we had Campbell Somerville, Ben Horn. Really, really good fight. I thought. Yes, Dan. Oh, yeah, sorry. Before we go on, Dan, thanks for joining in, Dan. Dan Parnas. Highland was a great card of fights on Friday. Yeah, mate, it was. Really, really was a really good night. So, talking that one, so Campbell Somerville, Ben Horn. I was a little bit surprised this was the main support, or was the fight before the main event. I would have thought it would have been a bit more down the order. Maybe maybe it was the crowd pleasing factor. Who knows? But for some reason, Campbell Somerville and Ben Horn was on. Look, it was an entertaining fight, but geez, wouldn't you just hate to fight Ben Horn? Like, he's so tough and durable. He's awkward as hell. Doesn't matter who that guy fights, they're going to look bad. He made Nikita Tszyu look bad. He even shook up Nikita, as we saw. Made Campbell Somerville... Look, Campbell Somerville, I will say, probably handled Ben a little bit better than Nikita, but I think in this situation, what you probably got to remember is that Nikita Tszyu, look, with all said and done, probably didn't rate Ben Horn very highly. I'm sure he'll learn from the experience. Knowing Glenn and Igor and obviously the whole team, they would have went back and would have been probably very happy that he had that sort of test at this stage. But the difference is Campbell Somerville knew exactly what he was getting into. He knew that he'd given Nikita Tszyu a really good fight. He would have prepared for it. He would have studied that fight. So he knew what he was getting into. So I thought he handled it very well. I thought he won pretty much every round. Ben made a fight of it, don't get me wrong. He gave him a really good fight, but tough, hard, awkward. But I think Campbell won every round, which I think the scores suggested. Maybe Ben might have won one round. I think might have been the case. But look, full respect to Ben Horn. We all fully respect him after the Nikita Tszyu fight. He'll continue to get fights on the way up. I've got a feeling he's going to be a bit of a gatekeeper for the Benjamin Bombers of the world, Bo Belbins of the world, those types of guys that are coming through, that he's going to be the type of guy they're going to want to fight. So, all right. Oh, mate. Evening. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Oh, geez. Where do I start on that, old mate? I didn't watch it live, by the way. I watched the Tasman Fighters card. I wasn't going to pay to see it. I did watch it on YouTube. We'll get to that, old mate, Big J. I'm really intrigued to hear your thoughts, you guys out there, you guys, your thoughts on it as well. So we'll get to that soon. But yeah, look, that fight was a really good one. As I said, I think Ben Horn will have more fights coming, but I think as long as he's not getting knocked around, I think he's the type of guy who's never going to get really knocked around at all. I think he's going to probably lose more than he wins, but he's going to give all those young guys a really, really tough fight. He's a crowd pleaser. I think he's got a good following, so he just comes to fight, and you need those types of guys who will just fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, and they'll just put their hand up and say, I'm in. And win or lose, doesn't matter. Full respect to Ben Horn. Campbell Somerville is going to be a really good fighter. He's only had the 3 fights, so he's going to need a lot more experience under his belt. But look, he's a great kid. I promoted his first fight. Really, really good young guy. 6'3", mind you. Weighs 70 kilos and 6'3". Just a massive super welterweight. Who knows? Will he be a potential fighter or an opponent for Nikita Tszyu? One thing I was thinking about watching a lot of the weekend's fights, there's a lot of guys out there for Nikita Tszyu. There's Campbell Somerville, there's Benjamin Bomber, Anguish Huda. I'll be staying away from Anguish Huda for the time being. He's dangerous, that guy. He's probably going to be another Ben Horn type, where he's probably going to lose more than he wins, but a tough guy who comes to fight. And with Luke Melden and Steve Della in his corner, you know you're always going to be in there with someone that's coming to win. Even though he might just be a little bit limited. But look, the thing is, you got to feel from him a little bit. He's had some rough calls. Like I thought the fight, we'll get to it in a sec, but the Benjamin Bomber fight, I did feel from him a little bit in that one. The Andrew Hunt fight as well, back in 2019, where it was a draw. I thought he won that fight. So I think he's going to be one of those guys, unfortunately, like a Tay Singh. They fight everyone. They there's a lot of close decisions that aren't going to go their way. So he's one of those dangerous guys. I'm not quite sure whether you really want to take on, I wouldn't have thought, would be Ankle Shooter. But as I said, a lot of really intriguing fights for Nikita Tszyu and amongst themselves as well. Campbell Somerville, Benjamin Bomber. Could be another one, another clash of the Victorians. So who knows? But plenty of, one good thing about it's plenty of great matchups out there. Mitch Cook, thanks for coming on, mate. Have you managed to convince Tassie to stream his event this weekend for us yet? Well, if you had to watch the show last Thursday, I've got a feeling the answer's no. I think it's probably no, or there was no basic way to say it. He let all you guys know. There's no stream. I couldn't even get him to do it on the iPhone. Even Tasman Fighters put it on the iPhone, I think. But, yeah, I don't think, Mitch, there's much chance of that. Just look at our show from Thursday night when the question was asked by me. And he made no mistake about it that it's not going to be streamed. But surely there's going to be someone at ringside who'll put the phone up. Let's hope so. Hopefully Tassie doesn't see him and boot him out of there. But, look, I think as Tasman Fighter showed on the weekend, there's probably no reason why you just can't have someone there streaming. Everyone wants to see it. I understand sometimes it's not affordable for a lot of promoters. It probably costs $5,000 upwards just for a basic stream, for a couple of cameras to be done semi-professionally. At least $5,000, maybe 5 to 10 is a half decent one. The real good productions that we've seen in the past maybe cost 30, 40 plus. But you can get a half decent one for about 5 to 10. But I understand that's not in everyone's budget. Tassie obviously wants them all in-house down there, and that's fine. But I've got a feeling someone down there will stream it. Let's hope so. I might message Bo and see if he can get his missus or someone to put it on Facebook Live or something. But anyway, don't tell Tassie I said that. All right. James, Sonny Bill Williams should at least consider retirement. Yep, we'll get to that too in a sec, mate. Shane, tough win for Wallace. Yep, I'm going to get to that one in a second as well. I'll just take that down. We'll get on to that now, Dan. Can you explain how one judge gave the fight to Clay Waterman 60-55 even though he got knocked down? Good point. Now, that was on the Justice Honey card. He won a 6th-round decision over Mitchell Whitelaw. And Mitchell Whitelaw is another guy you just don't want to fight. He's a gatekeeper, he's a journeyman, but he can fight. And he's always going to give these guys headaches. And he gave Clay Waterman a good fight. Clay Waterman obviously won. But to answer your question, Dan, now, I had this same question, it would have been 3 or 4 years ago when Ebony Bridges made a pro debut. Now, I know whether you guys can remember it. She made a pro debut. She fought a Filipino girl, I think. Now, she got dropped on her ass in the first round. I'm not talking about a slip or whatever. It was a right hand, I think. Caught her flush and knocked her down. I think she cracked her ankle or something on the way down. So it showed a bit for her to get up and actually see the fight through. Now, she actually won that round 10-9 on all 3 judges' scorecards. So how does that work? Now, I was always under the impression that a fighter gets knocked down, it's 10-8. Now, I had a couple of judges actually explain this to me on the night and then afterwards at some events that I've been to because I wouldn't let it lie. I want to know how a fighter can get knocked down and win the round 10-9. They said that obviously it's a 10-point must system. Now, in this case here, the round they're talking about, or whatever it was, he got knocked down, whatever round was, that they would have said that Clay Waterman won the round comprehensively enough that they would have gave him 10 and his opponent, it might have been at 10-10. That's what's happened. They've made it a 10-10 round because Clay Waterman's looked like he's won the round clearly. I'm not sure that's the case, but that's the explanation that got given to me is that Clay Waterman would have won the round dominantly enough to get a 10 and then Mitchell Whitelaw would have got a 10 as well. So it would have been a drawn round. I don't agree with it. I think if you get knocked down, it does raise the question, I will say, if you've got a fighter that absolutely dominates a round and he gets dropped in the last 10 seconds of the round, do they really lose around 10-8? But it is a 10-point must system. I don't know. But there's all these different explanations. At the end of the day, that's the only one I can think of, Dan, that I can explain it clearly enough, is they would have thought that Clay won the round clearly enough that it was a draw. It was a 10-10 round. Don't agree with it, but that's just the way they do it. What do we got here? I'll leave the questions for a second there, and we'll get on to the rest of the card, and I'll bring up your Conor Wallace because that was a great fight. The other fights on the card were Jerome Pampalone and Faris Chevalier. Wasn't the most exciting fight. I actually thought Chevalier might have been able to win that one, but Pampalone, look, it was a closest decision. I thought it was a really good fight. Chevalier's one of those guys. He's just a really, really good spoiling type. Well, not spoil. He's a very, very crafty type of fighter, and very hard to hit. Very good with his hands and feet. I think he's lost his last couple of fights now. The other one was obviously to Conor Wallace. I'm not sure where he'll go. Before the Conor Wallace fight, he was ranked in the top 15 of all 4 organisations. Now he's lost 2. He's probably out. And is he that type of guy that a lot of these up-and-comers are going to want to try and fight? If he's not ranked in the top 15 by any sanctioning bodies, would you really want to take the risk against Chevalier? I think not. And Jerome Pamplone, he's a good fighter. I think he's going to be a good one down the track. Where that takes him remains to be seen, but very, very good fighter. The other one on the card, 2 fights. Billy Polkinghorne over Broby Martin, 3rd round knockout. Really like Billy Polkinghorne. I think he's a really, really good fighter, good young prospect. I think we'll be seeing a little bit more of him. And the other fight, of course, Benjamin Bomber, as I said, with Ankush Huda. Look, geez, it was a tough one. I think it was a majority decision. One judge had it a draw. The other 2 had him for Benjamin Bomber. I think pretty close. Look, I just think it could have gone either way. I can see why Huda might have thought he would have got it. I think it was worst case a draw, only because I thought Benjamin Bomber probably won the first 2 rounds sort of clearly. The next 4, he got shook up a couple of times. You know, might have been 2 rounds each or whatever. I just think that Benjamin Bomber, those couple of rounds he got off pretty quick, was enough to really set him up. And as I said, I just think maybe a draw might have been the best outcome for Ankush Huda. It could be a rematch, but Benjamin Bomber, I think he's got a long way to go before I put him in with a Nikita Zoo or even a Campbell Somerville, I will say. But he's only a kid. He's only 20 years old. He's got plenty of time. I just think, keep giving him... That was a tough fight to take for a 20-year-old kid, I will say, because Ankle Shooter's had a lot of amateur fights. A good, tough, strong man. He's a fully fledged man. So, so I think Benjamin Bobby did pretty well, but I wouldn't mind seeing his next half a dozen fights just be around the mark to get some experience under his belt. I don't think he had an extensive amateur career, but he's definitely got some potential. Whether the money they dangle out in front of him to fight Nikita Zoo in the next couple of fights, maybe, might be enough to get him in the ring. At the end of the day, 20 years old, even if he fought Nikita and lost, it's not the end of the world. He's 20 years old. So, plenty of time. Let's get away from the whole, if you lose the fight, your career's over. At that age, mate, regroup, reload, and go again. On to the Saturday night's fight, which is what you guys mainly want to talk about there. But it's probably been the main questions on there. I think so. Yeah, no more on the Friday night one. Interested to hear what you guys think of Justice Honey's fight. Give me your comments. Before I move on, one thing that really was interesting, I thought, too, after the fight, is that he referred to Dempsey McKeon as Australia's #1 heavyweight. I don't know whether you caught that, which is surprising, which is pretty humbling from Justice Honey. For one, I've said a few times, I think Justice Honey beats Dempsey McKeon tomorrow if they fought. That's just my opinion. I just think he's just got it. He's got like Dempsey McKeon covered on all fronts, and that's no disrespect to Dempsey. He's a good fighter. He's earned his ranking. He's probably going to earn his shot at one of the titles at some stage. So good luck to him. I just think Justice Honey is those once in a generation type of fighters that comes along, and I think he would. I think he is Australia's best heavyweight. But we'll soon see. The Saturday night show was the Tasman Fighters. Straight off the bat, I must say I'm a little bit disappointed in Mick and the boys at Tasman Fighters. They didn't have this on a proper stream, which is surprising because Mick's actually told me in the past that his shows were going to be on a really good production level. But for one reason or another, it wasn't streamed. I'm not sure what the go was. I'm pretty sure it was a sellout, so I'm not sure why they wouldn't have streamed it, whether it was a last-minute thing. Maybe they had production issues. Who knows? But it wasn't streamed, properly streamed. It was on YouTube, of course. But I've just got a feeling it might have been a last-minute decision, and someone's got up there with a phone or something and filmed it. Wasn't the greatest production or quality, I will say. But, look, it's better than nothing, I suppose. But, I don't know about you guys, but the stream kept stopping and starting, and it was on and it was off. And, it wasn't a great stream. But, look, as I said, better than nothing. In the main event, the main event was actually Taylor Robinson. I thought it might have been Connor Wallace, but it wasn't. We'll go through the rundown anyway. Actually, we'll start with Connor Wallace because a lot of your questions are on him. He had a 6th-round stoppage of Letty. Now, if you didn't miss it, get on YouTube and watch it. It was an awesome fight. And if you don't know as well, Letty gave Connor Wallace his only loss. So you could see right from the outset that Connor Wallace was bent on destruction. He went out hard. He went out fast. Tried to get Letty out of there, but geez, how tough is he? The atmosphere, even through the YouTube stream, was unbelievable. You could really feel the excitement coming through the screen. It was a great fight. Interestingly enough, that Connor Wallace was dropped in the 3rd, and Letty was actually ahead on points going into the 6th round. He was ahead on 48-46 on all 3 cards. So, if he had got through, who knows, it would have been 4 rounds to go, but that was the cards at the time. Letty 2 points in front. Connor Wallace, he just come out there, and if you didn't see it, Letty just started to look like he was tiring a little bit, and if you look at it closely, Connor Wallace lands a straight left hand followed by a short, sharp right hook, and you can just see that he immediately started rocking. Credit to Connor Wallace. He sensed it. He jumped on him and got him out of there and just rained punches on him, and the referee really had no choice but to get in there. Good stoppage by the referee. Might have been a couple of seconds too late, but he's got to give Letty an opportunity because, as I said, Letty was winning the fight. He hadn't been down. He was rocked. So I don't mind the referee giving him an opportunity. And it wasn't like he was, his head was going back and his eyes were on his head. He was just covering up and he just wasn't returning punches. Referee had no choice. So I thought it was a good stoppage there by the referee. So, great win for Connor Wallace. He'll be now ranked probably in the top 5 or 6 in the world, I'm probably thinking. I think he was already ranked in the top 12 or something with the WBA, I think. So who knows what could happen with Connor Wallace? We could see another maybe world title shot, or one of those lesser titles, maybe an IBO or a WBF or something in the meantime. But look, really good effort by Conor. I felt a little bit for him too, by the way, because he looked stuffed when he stopped the fight. And then his trainer, I don't know who it was. It wasn't Luke Meldon. It was someone who ran and did a bit of a dirty dancing type of jump at him, and he had to hang on to him. So I must admit I did feel a little bit for Conor. So probably the last thing he needed after throwing about 150 punches in about a minute. So but anyway, it was really good fight by Conor. Let's see if we can find some of your questions there. Yes, here we go, Shane. Tough win for Wallace, who was down on my card before he got the stoppage. Yep, wasn't Taylor's best performance against an awkward, tough opponent, but good points win. Yep, we'll get to Taylor in a sec, mate. James, time for Conor Wallace to string a few wins in a row. Yeah, I think he has. Has he won? Well, the Chevalier fight was a really good fight for him. Is that 2 or 3 in a row now? So, I know I did actually have a coffee with Steve Della and Luke Meldon when they were down for the Cambosis fight, and I know Steve said that they were looking to probably step him up pretty soon. So who knows? I think it's right. I'm not quite sure of his age, but he's a mature guy. Might be late 20s, I think. So the time for him might be to make his move now for sure. What have we got there? I'm not going under the Sonny Bill stuff yet. That was only a 6 out of 10. James, Conor might be getting close to his level. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting through. All right. Another one from Dan. Sorry, guys. I was looking through the comments there. I'm just not trying to jump ahead because a lot of Sonny Bill Williams questions there. Lyndon, I'm new to your show and I'm very impressed with you and the rest of your team's knowledge. Love your show. Keep up the good work. Really appreciate that, Dan. Look, we're only a small channel at the moment, mate, but we're trying to grow, and it looks like it'll be a slow boom. It's great to have people like yourself that find the channel and obviously like the content we put out. We put a lot of time, effort, and that into it. And the guys I chose for the channel, not sure whether you've seen all the shows just yet, in all their own ways, are all very, very knowledgeable. Just quickly, I'll go over them. Obviously, you guys would have seen Tassie. Tassie, I think he was an Australian representative. He had about 8 fights under Team Fennec. Manager, promoter, trainer, you name it. Tassie's done it. He's been in boxing since he's probably been about 10 years old. Mike Altamura, the walking boxing encyclopedia. No one knows more about boxing than Mike Altamura. So check anything he does out. He's actually on tomorrow night, which I'm going to get to at the end of the show. Nick Noonanboy from Noonanboy Promotions. Integral part of a lot of fighters' camps. Zarafa, George Cambosis. He's been overseas a lot, covered. He's part of Fight Hub, so he knows about it as well. And also Peter Maniatis, again, manager, promoter, everything else. He's been in it for probably about 30 or 40 years. So there you go. So everyone should know a little bit about what they're doing. What have we got there? Oh, it's down onto the main event. Taylor Robinson. I'm going to get to that straight away. So a few points there. I don't know what you guys thought. I'll just take the comment down there, Dan. Now, she won 96, 94, 98, 92, 97, 93. Now, in my humble opinion, I thought she lost. I thought it was a really flat performance by Taylor. I think she's a lot better than that. But look, sometimes you don't really know where you're at until you get a real quality opponent. Now, the best opponent she's obviously fought was Shannon O'Connell, and she really acquitted herself very, very well in that fight, I thought, with Shannon. I thought she would have been too good for Manoa, who had a pretty good record, but hadn't really fought anybody. But Taylor looked really flat. She looked a little bit bewildered by the style of Manoa. I thought she got out-hustled. She got out-punched. She got out-scored. I just think she lost the fight. I gave sort of the closer rounds to Taylor, and I still think she lost 96-94. Now, I did see a lot on social media about Aussie boxing is it's an embarrassment. We should be ashamed of ourselves, and Aussie boxing's a joke. All this sort of stuff, guys. News flash: this happens in every single country around the world. Might be America. Oh, probably America's not too bad, but it does happen. America, Canada, England, New Zealand, you name it. These type of decisions happen. Sometimes what can happen with the judges, I know there was accusations, the judges are paid off and Tasman fight. Don't even go there, guys. I know as a promoter, the promoter doesn't barely even talk to the officials. They roll up on the night, they get dressed, they get into it. Look, who knows what goes on overseas with the little gifts and that sort of stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that can the promoters, especially the Aussie version, can they bribe judges and that sort of stuff? No, it doesn't happen. Maybe I'm a bit naive, but I know enough boxing officials to know that, I don't think they're on that sort of thing. But what does happen, and it happens to fans as well, you tend to watch one boxer and you react to the crowd, you react to the occasion. In this instance, Taylor Robinson, a massive favourite with the crowd as well. She's the Aussie girl, you tend to watch her, you don't watch her opponent, and all of a sudden you're just watching that one fighter and she just wins the fight. It happens internationally, I know it's happened a lot in the amateurs. You might get an Aussie versus, say, a Cuban. The judges tend to watch the Cuban, don't even see the good work by the Aussie, and it's just human nature. They are human. Don't forget that. And I don't think there was any corruption or anything involved. I think it was just the fighters, the judges, just sort of getting a bit lost in the whole thing and just forgetting that there was another opponent in there with Taylor Robinson. I got no doubt that Taylor Robinson and her trainer maybe thought they mightn't have got the decision. But look, every fighter, I think all the top fighters around the world at some stage have had a questionable decision that they've got. They learn from it. They probably don't take it for granted again. Maybe Taylor took this Manoa a little bit for granted, thought she was just going to walk in and get the win and walk out. Obviously, it doesn't work that way, and maybe it's going to be a learning curve for her. So I think she's capable of a lot more, Taylor Robinson, but it wasn't her best performance, and very, very, very lucky to get away with the win. The other fights on the undercard, Dana Coolwell with a 5th round stoppage of Kevin Arceniero. What do you make of that? Dana just did what he had to do. Not quite sure of how hurt Kevin was, but end of the day, he went down, he got counted out, whatever, you move on. I'm really happy with what they're doing with Dana, by the way. I think he was sort of chucked in as the main event a little bit too early in his career. Maybe the opponents he fought. I know there was one early fight that he was a little bit unlucky, but he got beaten by the international guy. It was a close fight, by the way. But I'm just glad they've stepped him back a little bit and let him get a few more of these sort of winnable fights under his belt. He's only young. He's got plenty of time. Get him half a dozen wins and then maybe go back to the well and give him another crack at it. Old mate, Big J, I heard Taylor lost. Yeah, as I said, mate, on my scorecards, I thought she lost. I don't think she anywhere near enough to win. Thanks, Andy. That's our panel on the show. Yeah, I don't. Thanks, James. Good to see some hashtags. Thanks, mate. I think I'm getting it right. Is that what I've got to do? Or I've got to do something else? That's the hashtags on the description. Apparently that helps with things. We'll see. If you haven't seen the dream fight, by the way, Robbie Pede and Lester Ellis. Check it out. What a fight that would have been. Who wins and why? I went for Robbie Peden by decision, and Mike went for Lester Ellis by decision. Would have been a great fight. On the Instagram poll, it's line ball, so get on there and vote. Now on to the next one. Eric Sokolov with a 3rd round stoppage of Moen Saku-Yor. I think the same thing. Eric's just getting a few wins under his belt. I think he's he's another young guy on the up. He's a bit of a character. I think he's the coach as well at Fortitude. So sounds like he's a good guy. So all the best for him. Jake Wiley, 2nd round stoppage of Patrick Clark. I don't think we can make too much out of that fight. I think Jake Wiley, he put the pressure on, and Patrick Clark, let's just say, might have been a little bit out of his depth, I would have thought. Don't think he was probably in the position to be in there with Jake Wiley, who's a quality young kid. And, he wasn't, I don't think he was hit with any big shots. He was just a little bit outclassed. And the referee did a really good job just to say, hey, mate, you've had enough. Let's just wave it off. So good stoppage as well. The other fight on there as well was Bryce McLaughlin with a 4th round stoppage of, 4 round decision over Marcus Nelson. So, yeah, he was impressive as well. So, yeah, look, a really good weekend of fights. As I said, I want to check out with Mick why he didn't stream it properly. I think... I know when I was promoting, I would just get a basic stream guy and put it on Facebook Live on Ozboxing. They were really good. They put it on the Facebook page, so thousands or tens of thousands of people would get to watch it for nothing. Really good way to get it out there. Ozboxing is obviously the biggest publication in Australia, social media with our community. So Brock Ellis said, yep, no worries, mate. Obviously helps them, helps me, gets it out there. And, it really helped. But again, I'm not quite sure what the situation was here. Let's see some more comments there. Mitch Cook, no idea if true, but someone close to a team, this is Taylor Robinson, was posting yesterday saying she was crippled all last week with sickness, couldn't breathe, etc. Mate, that could be the case. Something definitely wasn't right. And if that was the case, credit to her for afterwards for not really coming out as an excuse, because her body language showed that she knew she was lucky. I'm sure it'll come out in good time. If that's the case, that would probably explain it, because she looked really, really flat, in my opinion. So, but I'm sure she'll come back better, bigger and better as well, I would have thought. What else have we got there? Oh, sorry, Dan. I've been told that my background, I think I'll put this out there again if you want to hear again. 96 Olympia, 98 Commonwealth Games, 93, 97 World Championships. So that's a little bit of my amateur career. Didn't go pro, by the way. All right, so Shane. Okay, this is a bit different. She won on my card simply because she touched the other. I'm assuming that's other girl more. I'm not sure, Shane. I didn't really see her land many good punches at all. I thought the other girl. Look, it was a really hard fight to score. Let's not beat around the bush. I just thought Taylor was busier. She looked like she was doing enough, but I just didn't see many really clean punches land. Where the other girl didn't throw a lot, and her style wasn't overly great, but I just think she landed the better shots and out hustled Taylor. Look, there's always lots of different ways you can look at it and score it, but look, maybe a draw. But to have a judge give it 98-92, no matter how you look at it, that's bullshit. 98-92, that's 8 rounds to 2. The other one had it 7 rounds to 3. I would think, if anything, 6 rounds to 4 might be the way. I would have, worst case, had it as a draw. But anyway, that's the way they scored it. Andy, they wine and dine them overseas. They do. Now, that's what I was probably getting at a little bit before. I don't know what goes on out there. All I know is sometimes, whether it be amateur or professional, if you're mixing with the officials, as always, the g'day mate, how are you? And we're friends on Facebook, and we catch up and we hug, and they might go out for dinner together. So there's a little bit of an inclination there. But as far as his handing over money, I just think that's a little bit of a myth. Maybe I'm a little bit out of touch. I know definitely in the amateurs, having seen it myself, a lot of the judges and referees, they get all the overseas trips and all that sort of stuff. So, who knows what goes on behind closed doors. But as far as promoters, like I'm talking about a probably more of an Australian level. Let's not talk about the world, because anything can happen, but in different countries. But in Australia, look, you get to know the officials really well, but this whole paying off stuff, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Shane, she's got the DAZN deal in Canada. Yes, she does, mate. Good point. Just can't afford to lose at this stage, and that ranking, she'll probably get the IBF shot. Now, I raised this on the Thursday night show. Now, one thing I looked at with the IBF, I think it was the IBF rankings that she's in now. She wasn't ranked in the top 10, and the other girl was a flyweight, and she wasn't ranked anywhere near the top 10 or 15 either. So I'm just not sure how it was a title eliminator. I don't know how it all works. Again, funny things happen with sanctioning bodies. But look, she's inked a really good deal. I think there must obviously be something still with Tasman Fighters, which is why she's still on their shows. There'll be some sort of arrangement going on there. But look, good for her. I did hear too that John Manu, if you're not familiar with John Manu as well, won in Canada a couple of months ago, then won on the Cambosis undercard. He was a swing fight, which is really unfortunate, because very, very, very good fighter. He's just inked a deal with, I think it might be in connection with Lou DiBella as well. So he'll still be fighting in Australia, but overseas as well. A bit of a free agent, but Lou DiBella is going to be behind him. So what a coup that is. The guy goes to Canada, wins the fight at 70 kilos. The guy fights at 64. He went over there because he was a sparring partner for George Payne, who fought in the main event over there. Went over there, just 70 kilos. Beat one of the top prospects in Canada, by the way, in Canada. So that tells you something. Then comes back here, fights one of Team Cambosis' fighters, who was 12-0 with 9 knockouts when he got in there, and John Manu upset him as well, and gets himself a deal with Lou DiBella. That's the opportunities you got to take. James, sorry Shane, my previous comment on Conor Wallace, I meant time for Dana Coolwell to string a few wins in a row. Yeah, it is. I think that might be a couple, is it now, James? 2 or 3 in a row. I think it is. So, as I said before, I just think take your time with him. He had a couple of setbacks there. Just take the time, let him get a few more wins, and got no doubt they'll start to step him up. He's got some even good domestic fights out there for Dana as well, if they want to put him in with them, and then obviously international. But either way, Tasman Fighters behind him. I'm sure he'll get every opportunity. Now, I think I've gone through the whole card there. Now, on to the fight they're all asking about. Mark Hunt, Sonny Bill Williams. Now, I must admit again, I didn't watch it. I was watching the Tasman Fighters card. I watched it though. Look, just in my opinion, Sonny Bill just got what he deserved. He came up against like a 48-year-old fighter, but someone had been in the sport for 31 years, and someone that could fight. Now, I don't think we got the best Mark Hunt against Paul Gallen. I'm not sure whether they even bothered to train for that, if I'm being perfectly honest. But if you look at the Mark Hunt that we got against Sonny Bill Williams, you could see that he was conditioned as well as he could for someone his age. He was switched on. Sonny Bill Williams had that classic style for him. He was taller. He stood there. His defence was very, very questionable, where Paul Gallen still had some good boxing pedigree about him. Was shorter, used these slips and weaves a bit more, was a bit more cleverer or smarter. Sonny Bill Williams didn't have the boxing IQ. And if you look at the right hand that ended up sort of ending it, he split the guard. It wasn't a big bolo punch. He picked the shot and went straight down the middle and hit him flush. And that was it for Sonny Bill Williams. I think Sonny Bill Williams, I've never met the guy, but from what I've seen and read about him and heard people talking about, he's a lovely, lovely guy. He's obviously had a bit of a checkered past, whatever. I'm sure everyone's got a few skeletons in the closet. It's just that his are a little bit more public. But sounds like a really, really good guy. But I think it's actually a good thing for some of these footy players or YouTubers or whatever you want to call them, whatever they are these days, that, as they say, you don't play boxing. This is a serious sport. And if you get in there with someone that actually knows what they're doing and takes the fight seriously, this could be you. So I'm all for it, because I'm a little bit over these footballers and YouTubers choosing these hand-picked types of guys that fit the criteria as far as marketing goes, but they're very attractive as far as styles go. For that particular guy, YouTuber or influencer or whatever, whoever the hell they are, or footy player. So I think it's good that it's happened. As I said, no disrespect to Sonny Bill Williams, but I'm just glad that finally one of these guys that thinks it's just, I'll just get in there and put the gloves on. How hard can it be? Got to come up and say. However, with Sonny Bill Williams, I will say, did he have like 9 fights or something before that? And it fought some okay fighters, but to come in and go out, and just think you can just do it, it's a lot harder than that. And Mark Hunt doesn't muck around, and at that weight, anything can happen. When you land one. James, again, it looks like Queensland the strongest depth in Australia for men's boxing. Yeah, it does, mate, and we'll go through that soon. Rowan, don't be shy there, mate. Good riddance. Sonny Bill Williams never took the sport serious like Gallen, yep, and that's why I've always said I rate Gallen. I think he's been actually good for the sport. Hopefully that's it. Oz boxing is healthy without it. Yeah. Well, he did say he's not sure whether he'll fight again. I think he's 37 years old. I think that will be it for Sonny Bill Williams. Let's hope so. Let's hope also that once the Gallen and Hodges thing's over, I know there's been talk of others. I'm not familiar with the whole rugby league thing. I don't know these guys. I knew Paul Gallen, of course. Knew a little bit about Sonny Bill Williams. But all these other guys coming, I wouldn't know him if I fell over him in the street. So I don't know. All I know is I'm over it, and I'm glad that the AFL players aren't doing it. Now, that's an interesting one, because if you would have seen, and it's gone awfully quiet, they tried to do an Aussie or an AFL event in Melbourne. They thought, the NFL, NRL worked. AFL is the biggest sport in Australia. Surely those gullible Victorians down there will support it. They had to cancel it because no one gave a shit. No one supported it. They couldn't sell tables, couldn't sell tickets, and it fell over. So at least the Victorians, or us Victorians, aren't allowing this shit to happen, because as long as it makes money, they'll keep putting the shows on. So all you New South Welshmen and Queenslanders, stop paying for the fights, and maybe they'll stop putting them on. And Victorian fans, or South Australian, Western Australian, Tasmania, wherever you are in the AFL states, thank you for making a stand and putting the kibosh on it, because they couldn't give away tickets from what I was hearing. Well said, Lynn. I'm hoping that's what you're referring to then. Thanks, mate. Andy, definitely didn't get a quality Mark Hunt versus Gallen. No, I don't think so. Or did we? And he was a little bit surprised when he rocked Gallen and went, oh, hang on, this is not what's supposed to happen. I don't think so. I just think he was probably maybe not showboating, but you know what I mean? Like, he hit him, hurt him, and thought, this is going to be a walk in the park, and maybe underestimated Gallen's durability and boxing skills. Versus Sonny Bill Williams, Mark put in solid training camp to end it with a W. You could just tell he was switched on. He was in condition. He was ready to go. So that's what happens, and I'm all for it. Old mate. Sonny Bill Williams, 50% media creation, 40% body, 10% ability. Look, again, mate, I'm not quite sure the whole Sonny Bill Williams thing. Apparently, he was a really good rugby union player, and then he went to rugby league or the other way around. I'm not quite sure. Again, I'm not into the rugby side of things. Media creation, quite possibly. From all accounts, he's that big Adonis type of athlete. The chicks love him and all the rest of it. But as far as ability goes, yeah, I probably have to agree with you there, mate. Media creation, 50%. I wouldn't mind swapping bodies with him. I will say 40% and 10% ability. So, yep, I hear you there, mate. Shane James. Yep, in Queensland, strong group of senior amateurs turning pro, and they sell tickets too. So we get plenty of smaller shows to get them started. Yeah, Queensland's always been a very, very strong state. Always. Amateurs into pros. Always. So they've got a very, very good program up there. They get a lot of fights as amateurs. So, you know, as I said, they've always been, always sort of fighting it out with New South Wales. But I think Queensland's always been, especially the amateurs, the number one state. What about Solomon Hamono? He was good, wasn't he? Yeah, he was actually quite good. He lost early to Justin Whitehead, I remember, but he came good and got a few wins under his belt. I didn't know he was a football player, James. I'm sorry. I just remember him as a boxer. He could punch. I remember that. Big puncher. But he was upset early by Justin. And as I said, I think he had a few wins later in his career. But, yeah, I'm not quite sure if he really went on to do a lot. Old mate, besides Botha, Sonny Bill Williams fought nobodies. Well, what sort of Botha did we get, old mate? Really? I remember watching that fight thinking, geez, where did they get this guy from? Did they just get him, you know, from the training camp, which was on 2 weeks' notice, whatever? He looks shocking. We're talking both had fought, you know, Tyson and, well, all these guys. He's fought the best out there. Lewis, all those guys, and you know, gave them okay fights. Didn't beat any of them, but gave them all good fights. And yeah, for Sonny Bill Williams to fight him in, you know, third or fourth fight, whatever it was, yeah, I don't know about that one. Shane, let's face it, we're all preying on these footy players getting chins, so one of the good guys. Well, I was trying to be polite, Shane, but you're 100%, mate. I want to see more of it. I want to see, I must admit, I want to see, not so much Paul Gallen, as I said. He's earned his stripes. I see him more as a footballer who used to play football, a boxer who used to play football. That's the way I see him now. I see him completely different, and he respects the sport. He respects the other fighters. He wants to give back to the sport. I think a lot of these other guys just want the payday and a bit of you know, time in the spotlight. Half of them, and even this Justin Hodges. Now, a little bit off point there. How can you respect a guy that wants to be taken seriously as a fighter who won't fight 3-minute rounds? So Justin, mate, if you want to be even considered in you know, in the ballpark of being some sort of fighter, fight 3-minute rounds, mate. You're going to get a lot more respect by fighting 3-minute rounds if you lose. If it means that much, do you fight 4 3-minute rounds? I don't know, but this whole 6-2 bullshit, nah, mate, that's not real boxing. So sorry, mate. Even the girls say, hey, we don't want 2s, we want 3s. So if you're any type of fighter, 6 3s, whatever it might be, or as I said, even 4 3s, I've got a feeling he knows he's going to tank out after 1 round. That's why. So just my opinion, I think, and Gallen knows it too. That if it's a 3-minute round fight, the odds are that Justin Hodges is gassed and done by 1 round. Anyway, we'll see. Andy, Sonny Bill Williams had some training time with Joe Parker and Tyson Fury's crew before Barry Hall. Yeah, he did. I'm not quite sure what he did for this fight, Andy. I didn't really see anything about it. I knew that he'd been over there with Fury and Parker before the Barry Hall fight, and that was actually a really good performance by him. Now, was that a case of him being so good or Barry Hall being so bad? I think it was him being okay in that fight, because Barry Hall's totally overrated as far as what he brought to the table. They really played up on this whole, you know, he was some sort of champion amateur boxer and could have been this and could have been that. End of the day, he was a junior boxer in the Victorian Boxing League, which is the off sort of shoot of the main association. And don't get me wrong, I like Barry Hall. I like what he's done. He tried to take boxing on and gave it a crack. But the media narrative of him being some sort of champion junior and could have been some sort of champion as a pro, they just love saying that, don't they? And unfortunately, Sonny Bill Williams proved that to be true, and now same's happened to Sonny Bill Williams. But look, one thing I will say, all things aside though, guys, on whether it be YouTubers or the footballers or influencers, whoever it might be, I still give them major credit for getting in the ring. I've said that numerous times. I don't care whether you who you are, whether you're a world champion or a YouTuber or whatever. The fact you actually get in the ring in a legitimate fight, I take my hat off to all of them, regardless of the result. So let's just keep perspective on that. Oh, mate, Big J. Oh, players can't fight. Well, come on, mate. I'm gathering that you're from a rugby league background, but you're probably right. As far as boxing, probably not. I will say, though, I'm not sure whether I've mentioned this on this channel before, that, when was it? 2008. I was the boxing coach at Carlton. Now, if you're from interstate, Carlton's one of the big clubs in the AFL, and I was the boxing coach for 12 months. Now, you're right, old mate. 90% of them couldn't knock shit off a log, I can tell you. They were bloody hopeless. However, there was a couple of footy players in there, and probably no coincidence, they were Indigenous. Indigenous, they can fight, they can play footy, they can do anything, these guys. And I remember who was it? Andrew Walker. If you haven't seen him, look him up. He could fight. I remember Eddie Betts could let a few go. But there's a few players, I won't mention them because they're of a higher profile, and some of them are actually going to fight on the card that got cancelled. Let's just say, for their sake, I'm glad it got cancelled because not much boxing skill there. But AFL players in with an NRL player. I'd probably back the NRL player, especially the big boys. I'd probably back them 9 times out of 10. But as I said, there's a few little Indigenous guys there, at least what I saw at Carlton, that could really put them together. Could have been pretty good fighters, I think, if they had to turn that as well. So anyway, I'm assuming you're just hanging shit on us Mexicans down here, mate, that we don't, the AFL that you want to hang shit on. But we like to hang shit on you too up there, all the bum sniffers up there in Northern Australia. Joking, old mate, just joking. What do we got? Rowan, NRL fans are a different sort. It's my second sport to watch, but the fans love anything with a hype, to be honest. Hunt versus Gallen was on a Tim Zoo undercard, which was fair. Yeah, it was actually, yeah. So, look, the Hunt, what was it? Mark Hunt. Yeah, what fight was that on? I can't remember. Was it an undercard to Tim Zoo? Probably was. I can't remember it. Maybe it was Brown and Gallen, which was a standalone. I can't remember. But, yeah, they are. Look, they're totally different sports. Obviously, different fan base. Look, what I will say, all jokes aside, with AFL fans, AFL. I know it's the same with a lot of sports, but in the southern states and western states, AFL it's literally a religion. It really is. Now, I know we're getting off point here. It's a boxing show, but let me just put something in perspective for all you guys that wonder what AFL fans are doing and why we've got a heads up our ass down here. It's because it is a religion. We don't give a shit about state of origin. We don't give a shit about international. It's a club versus club type of sport. When they did have state of origin, half the really good players, the clubs wouldn't want them to play, or the clubs or the players themselves didn't want to play, because it was they didn't want to upset or put any jeopardy into the club games. That's why it faded out. And I know there's a thing about you don't represent Australia. Mate, they don't care. Supporters don't care. It's our sport. We love it. We don't care about NRL or soccer or basketball. And AFL is our sport. And we don't care that no one else watches it anywhere else in the world or in the northern states. We love it. And that's why we don't care about all the footy, the boxing things and all the rest of it, because it's footy is footy. That's all they follow. So I hope that puts it a little bit in perspective for you. Union and league, not that great both. I'm not quite sure what that means, old mate. But I don't even know the difference between the two. We won't get into it. It's a boxing show, of course, but I'm not quite sure the difference between two. I check to see how the Melbourne Storm go every week. That's probably about the extent of my NRL viewing, unfortunately, and I don't think I've ever watched rugby union. But anyway, Hermona, okay, played for Manly and West. I didn't know that, mate. As I said, I wasn't quite sure he was a rugby player. Jay Brown, thanks for the comment, Jay. Thanks for tuning in. What do we got? I've heard Eddie Hearn pitch Sonny Bill to Jake Paul. Who wins that? I know you love JP. Again, Jay, mate, full respect to on a couple of fronts to Jake Paul. Will I watch his fights? No. However, when he fights a real boxer, I will watch. No problem. But at the moment, fighting washed up MMA fighters doesn't cut it for me. I'm sorry. But one thing I will give him credit for, he's a businessman first and a fighter second. He's making millions, tens of millions of dollars. So good luck to him on that front. He's bringing a little bit more profile, especially to the women's sports. I know he co-promoted Serrano and Katie Taylor, so that's good. He's petitioning and championing for fighters to get paid more. So, again, good luck to him. And a lot of what he says is spot on the mark. Because one thing I do actually like about him, he's his own man. So he's not out there saying, well, geez, I better be careful what I say. I might upset him, that promoter or that section. But he doesn't care about that. He's in it for a good time, not a long time. So I actually do respect that about him. However, will I watch these current fights? No, I won't. On your question there, Eddie Hearn, Sonny Bill and Jake Paul, I'm not sure that happens now, but who knows? I think Jake Paul knocks Sonny Bill out. I thought that before this fight. I think it's too like a big statue with Sonny Bill. And Jake Paul, again, whether you like him or not, against those types of fighters, can knock these guys out. I'm really intrigued to see him fight a real fighter, to see whether he's got it or not. Will we get to see it? I think at some stage we will. Paul, sick of this 2-minute bullshit. Even this old man could go 2-minute rounds. Yeah, mate, it's a slight on the sport, isn't it? It's not good. 2 minutes, they should outlaw it. Should just be reserved for 14-year-old kids. I'm not against it for the women, I will say. However, if the women want to fight 3-minute rounds, then let them. One thing I will say, the women should be at least fighting 12-2s for world championship fights. But if they want to fight 3-minute rounds, then good luck to them. I just don't know whether the male fight fans are going to sit through those really long fights. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. The really good fights, they will. And it has been some reason brought up that the female body's not quite able to withstand that amount. But look, I don't subscribe to that theory. If they want to fight 3s, let them go. I've just got a feeling that they're going to keep it at 2s. Maybe they might do 3-minute rounds for championship fights. I don't know. But I would like to see the girls get what they want. What do we got there, mate? No more footy fights. Australian boxing is so strong at the moment. No need for novelty fights. Now, that brings me to the point. I know whether you watched on Thursday night, old mate Big J, when I had a second rant about the state of boxing. I did it last week on this show. I had to get Tassie's response, so we did it again on the Thursday show. My opinion is, like you said there, Australian boxing is more than strong enough to carry itself at the moment, and I did make a comment that I just would hope that especially a No Limit would remove the football safety net and put their faith in not only the fighters but themselves. And so I did mention the pay-per-view factor as well. Put a pay-per-view on it and just call it No Limit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just keep them going like the UFC do with theirs, and just put great fights, good Aussie fights on it every single show. Maybe put 8 fights on a card or 6 fights, whatever it might be. Really good fights that people want to see. Pay them accordingly. Put it on pay-per-view, and I reckon they might be surprised at how many people actually buy it. And when you think about it, they don't need as many dollars. If they've got Nikita Zoo headlining it, or I'm just looking at the cards here, it won't be Huni or those types of guys because of with DNL. But you know what I mean? Let's say it was a Huni. They don't have to pay mega dollars, but get him on there, get the pay-per-view behind him, put some really good fights underneath him, and people will pay. They really will. I said the other night, No Limit took the risk with Tim Tszyu. I know he's got the last name, but they took the punt, put it out there against Joel Camilleri, that first one, and people paid, and it's just been a snowball ever since. So I'm with you. No more footy fights. Get them off. If they want to do it, do their own standalone show. No Limit used to do footy shows. Do that. Okay? If you want to make your money doing that, and the people that want to watch the footy fights, put them on, then go for it. But just maybe, I think No Limit have done so much for Australian boxing. Take the safety net away and just back yourselves. Prime Botha would have KO'd Sonny Bill Williams early, in my opinion, says Andy. Good luck to Sonny Bill Williams, though. I think he retired there with Hunt too. I hope so. There's no point. He's obviously not good enough to be at that level. He's 37 years of age. I know he's probably got plenty of dollars. It's a little bit of a shame from what I read. Again, I don't really know too much about him, but I did read an article that they said he really under-delivered as a league player, under-delivered as a union player, and now under-delivered as a boxer as far as his potential and his appeal went. So it's a real shame that if that's over, I'm hoping he's made enough money that he'll be fine. But it's just a shame when you've got a guy like that hasn't really achieved his potential in all those sports. I'm sure Andy Lee was in Sonny Bill Williams' corner versus Hall. Yeah, he was, mate. He was in his corner, and I'm not quite sure who was in there the other night. I just saw the fight, not all the stuff beforehand. Surprise, surprise, Big J. You're a Queenslander, of course. Got to be always the Queenslanders hanging shit on us Mexicans down here. Am I allowed to say that anymore? That I'm Mexican down here? Victorian. I will. I'll be politically correct. Us Victorians down here. Ross Levitt. Yes, how are you, Ross? Chris Yarran, he could really go. He wasn't there when I was there, though, Ross, but I did hear that he could handle himself very well as well. So, and all those Indigenous boys, they could all handle themselves very well. They're just naturally gifted. I'm with you, Big J. Prefer legit boxers, get the limelight, to be honest. Yeah, Andy, I am with you. I still don't think I'll contradict myself a little bit. I'm not quite sure we're in the position to do it right here and now, but I'm just aiming for that down the track. Is the Aussie fans ready for that? Let's hope so. I think the real fans are. What we need is those casual fans, and Tassie talks about it all the time. Is there enough boxing fans, hardcore boxing fans, they're going to tune in and pay the money every 3 months? I'm assuming 2 months they might do a big pay-per-view, 2 months. I would hope so, but look, they probably do the numbers and they know. But yeah, it's an interesting question there, mate. I'm with you. I prefer boxers over the YouTubers and footy players, but I don't know. Maybe we've just got a little bit more developing to do. But I think what you can't deny is Australian boxing is riding an unbelievable wave at the moment. Hopefully, it gets better and better. Dan, agree. Hate this pay-per-view crap with footballers, players, and YouTubers. Does real boxing no favours at all? Yeah. So, what do you guys think about the pay-per-view thing? Again, I think it's about the third time I've brought it up. But no limit 1, 2, 3, and 4, like the UFC do, and do a big show every 2 months. Worst case, every 3 months. So it's 4 big shows a year. Get all the stars on there against other stars, we call them, or good fighters. So we get good fights and build the platform that way. And don't rely on footy players. Butterbean could KO them all. Yeah, he probably could. He was a beast as a 4-rounder, wasn't he, James? Look out. Me too, Big J. Queenslanders. Okay, good on you, Queenslanders. Where's the New South Welshman out there? Tim versus Bowen Morgan. Yeah, that was a pay-per-view as well, as was the Dwight Ritchie fight, as was Joel Brubaker. And obviously the first one was KO as well. So, mate, Hunt versus Gallen on Tim Bowen Morgan card. Oh, okay. All right. Yep. Hunt Gallen. Was that on that card? That was a really good card, I remember. I knew the main event wasn't going to last long, but they had to do what they had to do because that was when COVID was around. So they had to do the best they can to get the New Zealander in. I remember that was a really good card. Was that the card that Darragh Foley fought Ty Telford as well? And Luke Jackson fought... who was that? Who did he fight? He lost anyway, but they were all ripper fights, I remember, on that one. Andy, I'm excited for the Benavides plant, to be honest. Yes, well, that's been announced for early 2023. They did go through, I think it was Benavides' dad put out the terms and conditions. I don't think it was too much to ask, except for the fact that he wanted to come out second and be introduced second. This is Caleb Plant. David Benavides is the champion. It should be an automatic go. But, full credit to Benavides for saying, you know what, you go out second, you get in the ring second, I don't give a toss. I just want to fight you. So good luck with Benavides. That'll be a good fight. Who you guys think wins? I think Benavides wins that one quite comfortably. Caleb Plant goes really well. He had a good win, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, but I think Benavides has that one for me. Bivol Ramirez thoughts. Okay, well, let's get... Actually, before we get into that, Shane, just one thing to get onto for this weekend. Stevie Sparks fighting Montana Love. Stevie Spark 15-2, Montana Love 18-0 for the WBA Intercontinental Super Lightweight title in Cleveland, Ohio. It's on DAZN on Sunday. So check it out. All the best to Stevie Spark. Really good prospect coming up. He's had 17 fights now, starting to broaden his horizons. So hopefully he gets the win over. It'll be a tough fight, make no mistake about it, but full credit to him. Like Jason Waitley last weekend, you don't know until you take these fights on. So full credit to them to say, hey, I want to chase these fights. I'm going overseas to chase it. Let's go. So good on him. Bivol Ramirez. Okay, yes. Clinical. I nearly fell off my chair, I got to say, when Ramirez was interviewed after the fight and said he thought he won. I understand that's what most fighters say. However, you've got to have a semi-close fight to claim that, don't you? I thought Bivol maybe 9, if not 10 rounds, I would have thought. Jeez, he looked good, didn't he? He looked really, really good. Got to be in the pound-for-pound calculations down to top 5 or 6, I would say. Maybe higher. But really good performance by Bivol. And I think if Canelo was smart, You'd either fight him at super middleweight and try and weight drain him a little bit, but stay away from him at 175. If he wants to fight him, just make him come down to 168 to try and give him some sort of advantage, because Bivol's just all wrong for Canelo. All wrong. Obviously a bigger guy. The punch volume is too much for Canelo. Just his whole work rate in general, his volume of punches, everything like that he throws in spurts. He throws 3-4 punches at a time. All wrong for Canelo, which is what we saw. So if I was Canelo, I'd go a different way. But again, who does he fight? Andy, Ryder versus Zach Parker, merging WBA, WBO, super middleweight. Man, that should be good too. Yeah, when's that one? I did see something about it getting announced. Let me know there, Andy. That'll be a good fight. Really good fight, I think. I'm still think Ryder, I think. If that one goes ahead, I'm thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. Rowan, Andy, I'm excited too. Credit to them getting the fight done and not for a title, I assume, unless Canelo vacates. Yeah. Yep. I'm not sure. You guys might know a little bit more than me on that. I didn't see that it was going to be for any titles. But you would think the winner of that would get the shot at Canelo. He does want to fight in England, so it does make sense at some stage that Canelo will fight, especially Ryder. I think they were talking about that with Eddie Hearn, I think, after Ryder's last win over Jacobs. So, some interesting to see what happens in that one. So, but yeah, some big things. Maybe there are some fights out there for Canelo after all. Kamikaze versus Zoo was for Joel's Australian title. Yeah, so if you remember that, James, they had a clear set of fighters they were going to go for. Famously, Michael Zarafa was part of the plan and was mysteriously put aside. I don't think there's anything untoward in it. I just think they sort of went their own separate ways. It was Kamikaze first, then it was Joel Brubaker, I think, and then it was Dwight Ritchie, or the other way around. I think it might have been Joel Brubaker and then Dwight. Rest in peace. And then he went from there and he just took off. He was a household name after that. Kamikaze surprisingly gave him a really good fight. Again, one of those really awkward fighters. He just makes everyone look bad. So he's got, and Kamikaze is obviously fighting Sam Solomon soon as well. So I think that's December 9th, that one is. So good luck to Kamikaze and Sam Solomon, of course. Andy, I think Australia needs to be promoted more in all states, more shows all over to help build. Yeah, well, No Limit is sort of doing it. They've obviously done it in Sydney and Brisbane. There is talks, and it was supposed to be by the end of the year. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. There was going to be one in Melbourne. So stay tuned. I've got no doubt they will do one in Melbourne. Where else do they go after that? It's probably nowhere they can really go. I just don't think there's the fan base, and there's the time difference in Perth. Not really a market in South Australia, I wouldn't have thought. Although, having said that, the South Australian government forked over a lot of money for Mundine and Green 2. Maybe they want to start getting into the process. Not sure about the Tassie market. There has been fights in the ACT. But yeah, definitely Melbourne. I think even if you went to the big three, Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, Newcastle, of course, thrown in there as well. Maybe they could get out to a Geelong in Victoria, which is the second biggest city in Victoria. It's about an hour's drive from Melbourne. Obviously got the AFL team. So that could be an option as well. Sort of like what Newcastle is to Sydney, is Geelong to Melbourne. So and it's west of Melbourne. So you never know. But yeah, I'm with you, mate. Just get it out there. I just think more so build the platform on pay-per-view. You know, put it out there on pay-per-view. Yeah, the first couple might be a little bit slow. Let it build. Let people look forward to it. Because at the moment, I almost get the impression some Aussie fans that may be a little bit sort of embarrassed to get their mates involved to watch these shows when you got the footy fights on there. Maybe I'm wrong. I want it so that the fight fans, it starts to gather momentum. More and more people start to watch. People say, look, you've got to watch these No Limit or D&L events every 2 months. Best fighters in Australia, always well matched. Can't wait for the next one. And as I said last week as well, start building for the next one in the current one. So these two fighters, announce it. If these two fighters fight, if the two winners of these fights will then be fighting in the main event on the next one, and always be looking ahead like the UFC does. I don't want to go over old ground. I've done it twice in the last week, going over all the stuff with the UFC, what they do, what we could learn from. Get away from, I'm not that stressed about the Super Saturday stuff. Let's build really strong pay-per-views and get behind it, because they won't cost as much without the really big fights. Just put on 6, 7, 8 really good quality fights. charge you maybe $50. I think that's a nice cap. I think $50 is enough. $49.99 if you want to put it out. It's affordable for most people, and put it out there, and let's see what happens. Andy, let's go Stevie Sparks. Yes, 100%, mate. Mate, can't believe Love versus Spark in Ohio. Is anybody actually going to watch that? Should have been in Australia. I've just got a feeling, mate, that it's obviously, it could be money, I suppose, because obviously he's an Eddie Hearn fighter, is Sparks, and maybe he didn't really have the budget to put him on the Aussie cards here. Maybe they could have saved it for one, but then again, when you get a big fight, you got to take it. Maybe it was just a cheap way to give. Look, maybe Stevie Spark was saying, banging his fist on the table, I want a big fight, and Eddie Hearn wasn't in a position to do it on the Australian card, so he's said, all right, well, there you go, we'll put it over in the States. Who knows? Who knows how it all works? There's always a reason behind it, but I'm with you, mate. It would have been a great main event in Australia. To bring Love over here with an 18-0 record would have been a pretty easy sell. Maybe they weren't confident about Stevie's profile here yet. Maybe that's what they're trying to build, but I'm with you. I would have loved to have seen it in Australia. Does anyone else have problems with the DAZN stream cutting out on streaming from their archive? No, I don't, Shane. I must admit, I'm not even going to get started on DAZN because I think it's been an absolute schmozzle, to be honest. But I don't have that problem. If any of you guys have, let us know. James, big fight announced, Benavides and Plant. Yep, we've gone over that one, mate. So give us your tip who's going to win. I think Benavides. I think I might be a bit behind here, Emma. So, I'm on the DAZN subscription. I'm getting my dollars worth, so we'll watch our lad Stevie. Yep. Andy, I've got to take back a little bit what I said a few weeks back. I said get rid of DAZN. It's a waste of money. They have actually had some really good fights on lately. So for the $13 or $14 per month, I think it's well worth it, especially this week with Stevie. Should be great. And it's on at a good time as well, because most of the DAZN cards are usually the English or Abu Dhabi fight last weekend. They're all over the shop as far as times go. So looking forward to watching this one at a reasonable hour. Probably be on it, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, I suppose, the main event. So jump on that, guys. And if you haven't got DAZN, get it. Because over the next few months, you've got Estrada and Chocolatito in a few weeks as well. Can't wait for that one. You'll have Shannon and Ebony as well, as far as obviously Josh Warrington on that card. So some big fights, get it. Because at the moment, it's worth it. I think you can do it by a month. So technically, if there's not a lot going on, you could probably get rid of it and then wait till more good fights come out in a bit of a patch and get it back. Well, I don't know. James, continue the conversation there, mate. Spark probably underdog. It's boxing though, so good luck to him. Yeah, he is the underdog, I think, James. It's in the States. It's always tough whether the judges are looking, whether there's a 3-round head start sometimes with just being the international fighter. I don't think so much in the States, but also the travel factor. You're not sleeping in your own bed. The other guy's supporters are there. It's all his environment. But look, as I said before, mate, if Stevie is taking the risk to go over there, so good luck to him. I really give these guys credit to say, I'm going to chase the big fights overseas. I'm not going to wait for them to come to Australia. I'm going to get out of here and go chase my dream. So good on him. And he put it on pay-per-view, but shuffle shows around. Give more locals in different places a chance to watch. Yeah, no, I agree with you, mate. That would be good. Hey, how good would it be to do these pay-per-views and do it in Brisbane, then to Sydney, and then to Melbourne, and then maybe go to Perth if that's what you want to do, or if the South Australian government come in and just do the tour. So that brings another dimension to the pay-per-view. They've been so good at being multi-dimensional, have No Limit and D&L to that matter, but more so No Limit. So why not look at things and try a few things? But that's a great idea. Pay-per-view and go from one big city to the next. And everyone has an opportunity, and it might be once it starts to take off, like the people in Perth, it's in Melbourne next, and then it's come to Perth, let's start the publicity going. So they almost start the publicity a couple of shows in advance, like the UFC do. They do it so well with the way they run their business. And I think No Limit, again, I've been vocal in the last couple of weeks about the state of boxing. That's probably more on an international level. Australian boxing in a rare spot at the moment of being just so healthy, might be time to roll it out. Big pay-per-views once every 2 months and rotate it around all the cities and then come back again. And each show sets up the next show, which then sets up the next show. You get all the best fighters wanting to be on them, of course, the pay-per-views. So the best fighters are on there. And you almost fall into that the UFC category of saying, All right, we're the biggest guys. We're putting on the biggest shows. We're on the biggest platform. You come to us. There's none of this fighting, pick and choosing who you're going to fight. This is the guy you fight. If you don't want it, happy days. Go back to the local RSL club. They'll have the power to do it. So with that, they can put on the best fights, pay the guys well. So the guys, and it's a bit of a pathway for these young fighters coming up. They can cut the teeth at a lower level, and then the big apple or the big prize at the end of it is to be on a no limit pay-per-view in whatever capital city it might be. Maybe they even take it to New Zealand, incorporate them into it as well. So many things they could do. But our little part of the world's never been healthier. Why not capitalise on it and really, and no limit, as we know, are just riding the wave at the moment. They can't do anything wrong, so why not go with it? James, I have to say Benavides slightly higher than Plant on pay-per-view. It's close, so yep, I agree, mate. Benavides for me. Andy, regular WBA titleist David Morrell beat up Kazakh dude Ados on weekend. Yeah, geez, he looked good, didn't he? Did he? Ados now in coma because corner ref let him get. I didn't know that, mate. I didn't read that. That's a shame if that's the case. Let's hope he pulls out of that okay. And I'm with you, mate. Should have been stopped a bit earlier, I would have thought too. But yeah, that's a shame. You hate seeing that. So hopefully Ados, it becomes good because we've seen too much that in boxing over the years. Guys, I think that's it for the Aussie and international news, unless you guys want to keep the comments coming there. I'm going to switch to our topic of tonight, which is the top 50. And I want your guys' opinion. Keep the comments coming. Again, there's probably a 30-second delay, so I'll get onto it. And if you have some questions on what we've been speaking about, put them up, and I'll go back to them. So I think I've covered it all. I've done the Tasman Fighters and D&L shows. I've done the Hunt, Sonny Bill Williams, sorta. Stevie Spark, Bivol Ramirez. The cards on that one, by the way, 118, 110, and 117, 111 times 2 was Dimitri Bivol and Gilberto Ramirez. Yeah, but that is, I'm with you, James. That's not good to hear. Any boxer in that sort of way is not good. All right, guys. Well, we've come to that time of the night. I'm going to put up my screen saver or screen share up there. And there is the article. So you can see there, it was Australian Boxing 2022 Top 50 list. Female boxers, well, don't worry about the headline. It changed a couple of days after the initial headline of who are the best or the top 50 fighters in Australia. So you can see there who they think should be up there. All right, so what we might do, I'll quickly skim through the top 50, or at least the top sort of 25 that they have it. That this guy, you can see there, Jamie Pandaram, he's a tennis, rugby, football, sort of boxing, UFC reporter, has a few hats on there. I will say I've got a feeling he might be more of a casual fan than a hardcore fan, but this is what he came up with. Let's scroll down. We'll start at number 50. This, for starters, is his list. Okay, so this is the ones he came up with, and then we'll switch to what the readers chose. Because you'll see on here, we'll go down there, the top 50 boxers, Koen Mazzuti are there. You can see there, you can rate overrated, underrated, or agree. Now I'm not going to press those buttons for fear of getting some backlash off some people, but you will see soon when I do the others that they have some figures on there. So Koen Mazzuti at 50, Lynn Sandstrom in the top 50 fighters in Australia, a 7-2-1 record. Alex Winwood hasn't even turned pro yet. Good talent though. Jalen Tate, 10-0, but hasn't really fought anyone. Good talent. Hasn't really fought anyone yet, I will say. Keep the comments coming here, guys, as I put them up. You've got something to say there. 46, Hassan Hamdan, 5 fights. Vegas Larfield, 7-0, good young prospect. Joe Goodall, 9-1-1, 8 KOs. He's at 44. Yusuf Dib, 18-0, 43 he is. Jade Mitchell, 42. I'm assuming that's because he hasn't fought in a while. Number 42. Joel Kamikayo Camilleri. He's number 41. Or is that Joel Kamikayo Camilleri? Is that how he says it? Number 41. 40 is Andrew Hunt, who's retired, by the way. So well done, James, for doing some research. Retired about a year or two ago. Yeah, number 40. Wade Ryan. Now, even if that was the case, I'm not sure how you could have Wade Ryan above Andrew Hunt or Jade Mitchell or Joseph Goodall. But anyway, that's the prerogative. Wade Ryan at number 39. A quick comment there, mate, on the Addis was rapid blinking for at least 30 seconds for that stoppage. Every ref should be trained. Yeah, I did. Is that right? I did see that, Shane, but I wasn't aware that was a sign of that. I thought he might have had something in his eyes or whatever. But yeah, geez, you would have thought the referee would have, would have been right onto that. Benavides applied on grinds down opponents more in volume when the one-punch KO. He's been floored before. Plant slick coming off solid KO last outing. Yep, quality fight, mate, for sure. Who wins, though? So Wade Ryan, number 39. I'll just get that off the screen there. Jacob NG, number 38. Faris Chevalier, 37. I think this was done before the weekend fights. 36, Floyd Masson. 35, Dara Foley. A little bit low, if you ask me. Ben Mahoney, 34. Where do you see him? Lucas Brown, Big Daddy, number 33. Stevie Spark, 32. Geez, he's low, isn't he? 32. Bilal Akaway hasn't fought for 3 years at 31. 3.5 years, if you're going to be precise. Willis Meehan, 12-0, 10 KOs, number 30. Yeah, good to see him getting a little bit of attention. Isaac Hardman, number 29. Rowan Murdoch, 28. Paulo Akuso, 27. Now, this is probably a thing he's put in there. He's only had the 2 fights. He's obviously going on a little bit of potential ability versus record. You can't put, you had Alex Winwood hasn't had a pro fight, and Akuso's had 2. So I'm going to go by that same criteria, by the way. Bilal Dib, 26. Bruno Torimo, 25. Technical one, that one. He's not really an Aussie fighter. He's just based here in Australia. That's criteria. Okay, that's fine. Paul Fleming, 24. Harry Garside, 23. Now, he's only had 3 fights, but judging by that criteria as far as fights not really being a factor, got to say he's a little bit low again for me. Jason Waitley, number 22. 21, Nikita Zoo. Number 20, Connor Wallace. So we're starting to get into the more juicy area here. Might be a little bit higher after his weekend's win. Brock Jarvis got demolished in 1 round a few weeks back, still at 19. Sky Nicholson, number 18. Billy Dibb, 17. Sam Goodman, 16. Shannon O'Connell, 15, if you will. Justice Honey, 14. Matteo Tapia, 13. Now into the top 12, Dempsey McKeon. 11, Dennis Hogan. What do you guys think? Top 10, here we go. Ebony Bridges, number 10. 5 spots ahead of Shannon. Yeah, anyway. Number 9, Andrew Maloney. Number 8, Liam Wilson. Number 7, Shanika Johnson. So above Shannon and Ebony. Number 6, Michael Zarafa. Number 5, Liam Paro. Number 4, George Cambosis. Number 3, Jason Maloney. Number 2, Tim Zhu. Number 1, Joe Patai. Now, I think I've got the top 4 exactly the same. Top 4 I've got. I might have had, I think I had Andy at number 5, actually. So there it is. So that's his opinion there. Give me your opinion there. When will Willis Mean fight next? Super Rider Parker later this month too. Yeah, yep, good one. So Willis Meehan, yeah. Well, he's a little bit of the white elephant in the room, because if he gets a bit more experience and gets someone behind him, one of the big promoters, geez, we could be seeing him against Justice Honey or a Dempsey McKean. Oof, wouldn't they be awesome fights? All right, so that's the top 50. Quick, what you guys think of that? So that's, I'll just go quickly through the 10. So, yeah, Jaya Pataya, Tim Zhu, Jason Maloney, George Cambosis, Liam Paro, Michael Zarafa, Shanika Johnson. This is pound for pound, men's and women's. Liam Wilson, number 8. Number 9, Andrew Maloney. 10, Ebony Bridge. I'll go to the top 15. Dennis Hogan, Dempsey McKean, Matteo Tapia. 14 is Honey, and Shannon O'Connell at 15. All right, we'll quickly go to the Readers' top 50. We'll go to the top of the page again. We'll quickly scroll through them. What do you guys think? Interesting, especially that one there, number 49. But anyway, I'll tell you why in a sec. I'm just interested. I will say Taylor Robinson's not in the top 50, but Lynn Sandstrom is. Not quite sure about that one. Or Susie Ramadan. Anyway, Reader's top 50. Here we go. This is the Reader's choice. Now you can see here they have actually got the overrated, underrated, and the agree. We won't go all through them. We'll just pick a few out. Lucas Brown, overrated at number 50. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yes, I do remember Andy. People remember Cambo placing. Number 4, I can see that. Have a look at this one though, Andy. I know you probably haven't seen this because you're up in Northern Territory or Queensland, wherever it was. Some surprises there. All right. So Lucas Brown, 67% that he's overrated at number 50. Alex Winwood, I'll just pick out something. Agree. He hasn't had a pro fight, so I'm assuming we're putting amateurs in this as well. I don't know. I would assume it's a pro list. Kamakayo, 54% saying he's still overrated. Carl Mazudia, 61% agree with that. Lynn Sandstrom, surprisingly, 45% of people agree that she's in the top 50. Whatever. Yusuf Dib, overrated 44%. 51% says Wade Ryan is overrated in the top 50. Hassan Hamden, 55% agree. Dreadful. We're not to the end of it yet, Paul. Let me get through it and then you can have your say. 42. Jade Mitchell was 42. Oh, so this is where they've actually been rated and then what the people reckon. Okay. So 45% agree with Jade. I reckon he's still a little bit low, even though you're going to come back for that one fight. Jalen Tate, 52% agree. Joe Goodall, 42% agree. Faris Chevalier, 44% say he's overrated. Underrated for Vegas. Andrew Hunt, well, he's retired, so let's not rate him. Michaels Sarafa. So hang on, this must be where they are. Sorry, this must be where they are rated after the people have voted. Number 36, Michael Zarafa. Can you believe that? Tell me what you think of that. 36 is Michael Zarafa. Old mate had him, well, not old mate on here, but Jason, whatever his James, whatever his Pandaron, whatever his name is, had him at number, was it 6, I think? 36 from the fans. So 74% said he's overrated. 74%. Now, I think guys a little bit ahead of themselves with this. I think a little bit of that is out of spite, I think. It's not a popularity contest, so let's stay on point. He's better than the 36th best in the world, guys. He's definitely top 10 in my opinion. Dara Foley, 41% overrated. Jacob NG's at 34. This is the readers' opinions here, guys. Billy Dibb, 69% say he's overrated. He drops to 33. 32 is below Dibb, so 56% said he was overrated. Bilal Akaway drops to 31. So they've actually got the numbers there, sorry. I'll just go back to Zarafa for a sec. We rated there you go. We rated them at number 6. The fans had him at 36. A bit unfair, guys. So Jacob NG, 38 to 34. Billy Dibb, they had him at number 17. He's 33 there. Bilal Dibb, 26 to 32. So Bilal Akaway, there you go. Spot on. They both had him 31. Floyd Masson, we rate him at 36. The fans rate him at number 30. Bruno Trimo, I think I'll skim past Bruno. Great little fighter, by the way, but for the purpose of the exercise, we won't rate him. Ben Mahoney, about the mark. So 48% agree with that. Isaac Harmon, that's an interesting one. 29. So they're both about right. I would have thought he might have been a little bit higher, but 40% said he's overrated. Rowan Murdoch about the same. Paul Awakuso, this is interesting. So about the same there, 27. The fans had him at 25, I'm assuming, because he's only had the 2 fights. Boxing learner. Should be 27. Okay. 27. All right. Where are we? Shane. Andy Willis has a bad hand injury. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Big J got Lucas, number 5. All right, come on, Big J. Let's go back there, James. Top 10. You've got Lucas Brand in the top 10. I love this. I love the discussion. Number 20 says James. Oh, I'm not going to like my list then. Cheers. Shane says Andy. I like Willis. Reckon he goes good. All right, let's get back to So we're in the top 25 here. Let's get to that. Jason Waitley, they had him at number 22. The fans have him at 24. 45% still say he's overrated, though. Willis Meehan, they had him at 30. The fans had him at 23. Dennis Hogan, so he's dropped. They had him at 11. The fans had him at 22. 58% said he was overrated. Connor Wallace, about the same. So, yeah, across the board there. Bit of sort of a mixed bag there, 20 to 21. Brock Jarvis, 44% had him as overrated, but still around the mark, so the fans have him about the same. Stevie Spark, yep, so the fans had him at 19. The guy that wrote it had him at 32. So 59% said he was underrated. All right, Paul Fleming. They had him at 24. The fans had him at 18. I think he was still a little bit higher than that anyway. But 47% said he was underrated. Nikita Zoo, overrated. So 40% said overrated, 40% said underrated, and 20% agreed. So there's definitely a mixed bag there. Had him at 21, the fans at 17. Shannon O'Connell, this is an interesting one. 42% said she's overrated. That's interesting. So about the same as far as the rankings goes. 15, the fans had her at 16. So she's actually dropped by the fans. That's an interesting one. Sky Nicholson, number 15, above Shannon. Okay. 5-0, so obviously fights don't matter. So underrated, so 43%. So they have her at 18. The fans have her at 15. Thanks for hanging with me there, guys. I'm getting through it. Dempsey McKeon, they had him at 12. The fans had him at 14. So, again, a bit of a mixed bag there. 38 overrated, 35 underrated. Ebony Bridges, another interesting one. The author had her at number 10. The fans have her at 13. 43% say she's overrated. That's interesting that Shannon and Ebony, mid-40s, say they're both overrated, which is really surprising. Number 12, Harry Garside. So, underrated, so 53%. So, the poll had him at 20. The publisher had him at 23. The fans have him at number 12. So, big jump there. Sam Goodman. There you go there. Underrated, so 45%. They had him at 16. The fans have him at 11. Shanika Johnson, 42% say she's overrated. So all the top ranking girls are all being shown to be underrated apart from Sky Nicholson, who was vastly underrated, they say. So Shannon O'Connell, Ebony Bridges, Shanika Johnson, 42 to 43% of the people have said they're overrated. I think Shanika's overrated for number 7. Maybe that's what they're getting at. But yeah, that's interesting. So they had him at number 7. Liam Wilson drops into number 9. So the writer had him at 8, the fans at 9. So about an even spread there. But Teo Tapia, that's an interesting one. So 56% say he's underrated. The paper had him at 13. Fans have him at number 8. So we're getting into the juicy part now. Number 7, Justice Honey. So number 7. So the writer had him at 14. The fans have him at 7. 47% say he's underrated. So there you go. Number 6. We'll just look at this one. I know a few people are going to absolutely blow a gasket over this one. The writer had him at 4. The poll had him at number 6. 42% say George Kambosos is overrated. Is only the 6th best fighter in Australia. I've got to draw the line at that one, guys. Number 6 in Australia, George Kambosos. Anyway, that's what people vote for, but 42% say he's overrated, I think, is really harsh. Not as bad as a Rafa, I will say. Just a 30-spot difference, but anyway. What was it, 81% or 75, 76% or whatever it was, said he was overrated. Number 5, Andrew Maloney. Now, this is more like my list, but people don't seem to agree with me. There you go. Underrated, 46%. So some real boxing fans there. Maybe not the same that said George was overrated, but 46% say Andy is underrated, which I think is correct. That's just my humble opinion. So number 5, the writer had him at number 9. This is another surprising one. Jai Pataya has dropped to number 4. So the writer had him at 1. The fans have him at number 4. Overrated, 41%. That's pretty crazy. Number 3, Jason Maloney. So, yep, so the fans and the writer both had him at number 3. So, 57% probably one of the only ones that people can agree. So, 57% said they agree with Jason Maloney at number 3. Number 2. What a surprise this is. Liam Paro is number 2. So, 44% say he's underrated. Number 2, Liam Paro. There you go, guys. So no surprise I'm thinking he's going to be number 1. So they had him at number 5. Paro, the readers had him at number 2. And probably no surprise here. Tim Zhu, 41% said he was underrated. 43% said they agree. Only 16% said he was overrated. I'm not sure how they can say he's over. Well, maybe. I'd say he's overrated at number 2. So there you go. So there's the top 50. So quickly, Tim Zhu, number 1. Liam Paro, number 2. Jason Maloney, number 3. This is the fans, by the way. Jai Pataya, number 4. Andrew Maloney, number 5. George Kambosos, number 6. Justice Huni, number 7. Mateo Tapia, number 8. Liam Wilson, number 9. I think I said him. I did, yep. And Shanika Johnson, number 10. So there you go. So the fans have still rated Shanika Johnson above Shannon O'Connell and Ebony Bridges, even though I will say that Shannon beat Shanika last year. So maybe, who knows. But that's a real interesting one, guys. Hang on, we've got some more comments here. Sorry, I've missed a couple here. I'll put this up. That's just Sky's Simp fans saying she's underrated. Not a fan, old mate, I'm gathering. Look, she's got a lot of ability. I can't believe, though, that Taylor Robinson's not in there, or Susie Ramadan for the girls if Lynn Sandstrom's in there. That's all I'll say. But, you know, the rider has... I'm pretty sure maybe they've only been able to rate the riders number 50. What I will say is, in the words of Roger Mayweather, this rider doesn't know shit about boxing. He just doesn't. I'm sorry. I think he's a casual follower. Maybe he looks at it from afar. Probably has a little bit of an overview of Australian boxing, but he's not hardcore. And it's probably hard to be when you've got so many sports you've got to cover. But, you know, when you're covering all those sports, how can you be focused just on boxing? I would love to see someone like a Grantley Keezer or someone like that do a top 50. Then I'll maybe take a bit on board. Let's be honest, everybody's ratings drop when you lose. You're only as good as your last fight. Achievement-wise, though, Cambo is up there. Well, the interesting thing, though, mate, on that, I agree with that, by the way, is that, yeah, I 100% agree that, this is hence my ratings, which I'll put up in a sec, that he drops. Basically, he's had 2 losses. But a lot of the people that have dropped have put Andy down. A lot of the people that are doing the votes online, the boxing fans, are saying that Andy is below a Liam Wilson and these types of guys. I just don't see it. Anyway, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Boxing learner. Zarafa should be at least 11. Yeah, I had him a little bit higher than that, mate, but not quite. Old mate Big J, Paro at 2 and Tim at 1. Neither won titles or competed for titles yet. Yeah, mate, I agree. And look, I think we love Tim, obviously. Obviously, Liam Paro's got a shitload of fans out there as well. But to have him at number 2 above the Maloney brothers and Jai Pataya, George Kambosos especially, I think might be more of a popularity contest more than boxing fans voting with the heads instead of the hearts. Hence the Zarafa one. Come on, guys. They had him at number 6. The fans have voted him at 36. 74% said he's overrated. Anyway. What do we got? James. Kambosos Paro at 137.5. I would love to see that fight. James, I don't think it's going to happen in the near future, though. I've got a feeling that Kambosos thinks he's a level above Paro at the moment. I don't maybe necessarily agree. But Paro, I think he would take that fight, but he's got his sights set firmly on that 140-pound title. But I've just got a feeling Kambosos wouldn't, at this stage, he'd sort of lower himself to fight Paro, even though he's a super talent, he's Liam Paro, and definitely in that top 10 in the world. I thought we were talking about all-time Aussie boxers. Nah, mate, this is just scrutinising the Herald Sun. Now, hey, we could do a top 50 of all time. If I was going to do that one, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We might do this at some stage, a top 50, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get Mike Altamura to do it. He knows all the boxers from all through the years. So if I was going to do a top 50 Aussie boxers of all time, I'd have to have Mike involved. I just don't know enough about a lot of the old time guys, or a real keenness or, to learn a lot more about them. Mike knows them all, so we'll see what we can do anyway, mate. I'm a big fan of Sky, just not that high. Yep, I agree there, mate. Does it say how many fans voted? No, it doesn't, mate. It doesn't. So I'd say there would have been a fair few. It had a fair few comments in the comment section, so maybe. Solid Point says Big J. J Brown says my five are Tim, Jai, George, Liam, Jason Maloney. Okay, so I'm thinking who. Hang on, let's go to the top. So you had five. So they've got Tim Zoo, Liam Paro, yep. Jason, yep. George, Jai. Who might be sitting there that they've got in there? Andrew Maloney. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so they've got Andy Maloney instead of George by the looks of things. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to put up before that one. Most casuals vote out of favouritism, and obviously vote out of spite. Because no offence to, let's have a look. No offence to these guys, Darragh Foley, Jacob NG, and Billy Dibb, and Bilal Dibb, and Bill Arkaway, and who hasn't fought for 3.5 years, Floyd Masson. No offence to those guys, but I'm pretty sure Michael Zarafa's earned a spot a lot higher than that. Having said that, I'm going to put up my 25. I'm only doing 25, I'm not doing 50, because I think, as I said at the start, 26 to 50, there could be so many fighters you could throw a blanket over. It's an overall thing. I'm going to put up my 25. So come at me. Men's and women's. Very, very hard. Where is it? Here we go. There it is. There's my top 25. I've got 25. I've got Isaac Harmon in there. I know that's a little bit hard. Maybe come at me for that one. Jacob NG, 24. Ben Mahoney, 23. Nikita, 22. Paulo Acuso, 21. Sky Nicholson, 20. Harry Garside, 19. Now, these three fighters, make no mistake about it, give it 12 months, they will be in the top 10, I'm thinking. The fact they've only had a handful of fights between them, going a little bit on that. But on ability, they are three of the best fighters in Australia, bar none. But just based, I've got to have a bit of a balance of fights versus talent. So 21 Paulo, 20 Sky, 19 Harry, 18 Stevie Spark, 17 is Dennis Hogan. Now was he Dennis Hogan? Yeah, he was. 16 Matteo Tapia, 15 Ebony Bridges, 14 Sam Goodman, 13 Liam Wilson, 12 Dempsey McKeon, 11 Shanika Johnson, 10 Paul Fleming, 9 Justice Hooney, 8 Shannon O'Connell. That was a tough one with Shannon. 7 I've got Michael Zarafa, 6 Liam Paro, 5 Andrew Maloney, 4 George Cambosis, 3 Jason Maloney, 2 Tim Zoo, 1 Jaya Pataya. So I'll leave that up there, give you guys a little bit of an opportunity to have a quick look at it and give me your feedback. Mike is a bloody legend. Encyclopedia right there. No, he is. Now, speaking of Mike, just while you have a look at the names up there and prepare your onslaught, tomorrow night we're going live again. Now, this is the Mike Altamura Hour. Now, if you're a boxing fan, a real hardcore boxing fan, don't miss it because it's his hour. Got 3 segments to go through that I'm going to give him because we normally record classic fights and dream fights. At the moment, we've got Pete away, we've got Tassie away, we've got Noonan away. So it's good when you got at least 3 people on that to give a more balanced opinion. So I've given it a rest. So Mike will be on tomorrow night live from 7:30, so not 7:45, 7:30. And he will give his top 5 Australian fighters. No, sorry, not Australian. The top 5 fighters of all time, so across the board, and why. His top 5 favourite fights of all time, and why. And then he'll do, like I did last week or the week before, the 10 best Aussie performances of all time. So really look out for that one because no doubt there'll be no playing it safe down the straight line. He will pick some from all different eras. So if you want to have some real input for someone that knows the boxing so well, check out tomorrow night at 7:30 here on YouTube. So Bilal fought. Oh, sorry, you're right, old mate. I forgot about that. He did fight. Sorry, I stand corrected. I forgot about that. He did fight on there. but it made that much noise I forgot about it, to be honest, mate. So hopefully he's back. I know he's had all sorts of dramas with his back, so let's hope he's makes a return, because he's such a good talent. Obviously he had the setback when he fought in Vegas against John Ryder, but John Ryder's obviously shown he's a very good fighter. I was at that fight in Vegas. It was a tough learning experience for Bilal, but I'm sure he would have learned from it, and definitely still got a lot of potential, and some big fights here. Jade Mitchell's won, Rowan Murdoch, some Matteo Tapia maybe. Some good fights to be made for Bilal if he makes it back. At the moment, Ebony is above Shannon, but that could change come December 10th. Yep, okay, mate, that's fine. I don't agree, but I respect your opinion. If you're going by achievements, then I suppose you've got to go for Ebony. She's the world champion, so no dramas with that. Who have I got there? So I've got her, where do I have it? Number 15. Yep. Ebony and Shannon are both 8-1 in the last 9 fights each. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think Shannon's won her last 8 though, I think, James. She did lose back about 4 years ago. She's won her last 8 fights straight. Ebony, of course, had the loss to Shannon Courtney, won the world title. So, yep, so I think the winner of that fight would definitely be entrenched in the top 10, I would think. I think, obviously, you've got Shannon there now. But, look, I'm not going to argue with anyone that has it any different. I think even on the weekend with Justice Hooney, his performance could even see him go in there, even above Zarafa, if you really wanted to look at it that way. Hashtag the heck out of it, Lyndon. Yes, I will, mate, for sure. Zarafa is number 1 in the WBA. The same crew would have been lucky to rate Mundine top 50. Yeah, the old rating systems, Jay. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, it's an interesting one, mate. Look, again, I'm not going to get, and that's another talking point that I've been really vocal about with the rating systems. You've got Zarafa number 1 in the WBA and I think number 2 in the IBF, and not ranked at all by the WBC or WBO. So how does that work? I don't get it. Oh, I do get it. I just think it's ridiculous that you can have a fighter that's ranked number 1 by one organisation and not in the top 15 of another one. Doesn't make sense. Even though I do know the way it works. It's ridiculous. But anyway, mate. Yep. Paul Haraba. You definitely lost all likings for a bloke eating a sausage roll. Big Daddy and Below did way better than Hardman. Yeah, mate, I'm not going to argue with that. You're probably right. The Isaac Hardman one, I must admit, was a really hard one. There's probably a lot of fighters that we probably could have had in there. Even Joseph Goodall's probably another one. I think his fight with Big Daddy will definitely sort a few out. Yeah, look, you're probably right, mate. Again, it's really once you get past sort of 15, it's very, very, very tough to rate them. And as I said, though, Harry, Sky, and Paulo, and Nikita for that matter, those 4 will be very, very high shortly. But the fact they've only had probably 10 fights between them, it's very hard to make a case. James, what have we got there? Hang on. Do WBC, IBF, WBA, or WO have rankings more than top 15? I know the WBC used to, James, they used to do a top 20 or 30, it might even been, I remember. I'm not quite sure. I think the ones they put online, I think the official ones only go up to top 15. But I'm not sure. The ones that they put up themselves, but I'm sure internally there'd be some sort of system. But yeah, look, who knows, mate? I just give up trying to make sense of what the hell they do, to be honest. I really do. I don't rate any of the rankings. I don't agree with really any of them. I can't really say anyone's better than the others. I think the WBC for me is still the preeminent sanctioning body in the sport. However, geez, they make some ridiculous cope, but they do. They're probably a lot more stricter with the way they enforce their rankings. So good on the IBF. WBA are all over the place, and the WBO aren't too bad. I don't think the WBO are pretty good. Probably along with the WBC. But look, I don't know. They've all got their faults, but they've all got their strengths. But either way, boxing with the shit about when you've got someone that's ranked number 1 by one and not in the top 15 of another, it just who knows. Looks like they're pushing Irizan Yulara as WBA middleweight Mando over Zarafa, as Triple G Mando after Falcao. Yeah, well, it depends on who you're asking, Andy, because you would have seen the story last week with Michael Zarafa. He's saying he's verbally agreed to fight Triple G. I did one comment that really made if he's cool with it, because Michael Zarafa is saying he's okay with it, but no one's asked Triple G. But anyway, you got to see it. But Yeah, well, according to Zarafa, they're in talks and it's going to happen. But Triple G, like you said, Lara, I heard, was being mandated to fight Zarafa, and Falcao would then go after that. Who knows? But it's interesting with Zarafa, which is why they've taken that fight with the Italian on the no limit card. But he's talking about March or April fighting Triple G. I'm not sure. I would have thought that it'd be Lara and Triple G. But the other thing I will say, guys, with the Australian media and / social media, sometimes never let the truth get in the way of a good story and some headlines and some clicks and likes and comments and that sort of stuff. I'll wait till I believe it. I hope that Zarafa's right and the fight is there. I think it'd be another, really good thing for Australian boxing. But until he signs on the dotted line, Tassie and I talked about it on Thursday night. Is the money there? Even if it's no limit, or Eddie Hearn, or whoever it might be, is the money there to bring Triple G out? Is this a guy that's probably going to want between $5 and $10 million? Is the money here to pay for it? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. Susie Raman is still top 25. Mate, I'm not going to argue with it. I don't agree. Just my opinion. I think her last performance wasn't Susie's best by any means. I think she's definitely capable, but by that performance, I don't think so. But again, does it come down to achievement versus your last fight and how you looked to what you've done? I mean, look, you look at my rankings there with Sky Nicholson, who's had 5 fights in there over Susie Ramana. Now, do I stand by it? Absolutely, I do. But it depends on how you do it. With Susie, look, a big fan of Susie. I know her well, but her last performance, just wasn't for me up to her standard and the top 25 standard. Having said that, Isaac Hardman probably doesn't fit the bill either, and I'll cop it. I was just probably grasping for straws a little bit towards the end, and maybe Lucas Brown could be one of them. I'm probably looking at a few there. I'll quickly go. I won't put it on screen, but yeah, I don't know. There's probably a few that could have went in anyway. Zarafa joins the nobility bandwagon. No limit. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, what do you guys make of that? Did I talk about this last week? Zarafa joins the no limit bandwagon. I don't really know what to make of it because, look, I'll tell you what I do make of it. I've got a feeling that at some stage the fight with Tim's going to happen. They know it's going to happen at some stage, whether it's in the next 12 months or 2 years, whatever it's going to be. Obviously, they're both on separate tracks at the moment. I've got a feeling no limit. And I've got no doubt Michael Zarafa would have probably called the boys. He's obviously not with his previous managers and trainers or his whole team. I've got a feeling he would have been assessing his options, thinking, geez, what do I do now? He's made the call to no limit. No limit being the quality guys they are. Said, hey, we'll have a coffee. Let's talk about things. It's all been laid on the line. Michael's obviously stated his case that he was given bad advice and everything else. No limit of, again, the guys are said, yep, no drama. They can also see the big picture down the track where they're saying, look, if Zarafa wins that world title and Tim wins his world title, holy shit, we've got a super fight in Australia. And guess what? No limit control both fighters. Easy to make, massive money to be made. No middlemen, no one with the hands out, no one to make any ripples or waves, whatever you want to call it, like we're getting with all those big fights internationally. I think for no limit, it's worth the risk. It's worth the risk by saying, we're going to back Michael Zarafa. This fight wouldn't have cost him much at all to put on the show. Don't worry about that. And no doubt some people will probably pay the money because he's on the card. That's great. So there's always a method to the madness. I've got a feeling no limit are looking 6 to 12 to 18 months down the track, and they want to have Michael Zarafa under the no limit umbrella just in case. And it's good that Michael, look, he's one of the, well, you see there, he's in my top 7. He's an elite fighter in Australia. He's maybe challenging Triple G for a world title. So, geez, makes sense that No Limit want to get the best fighter signed, doesn't it? So, got a couple of more questions, guys. I'm going to have to call it a night. We've been going for a couple of hours now. Mate, classic Uncle Chopper Reed. Never let the truth get away for good young. Yep, 100%, mate. Yep, agree with that. Zarafa preparing for Zoo. If Zoo loses, there's no limit backup plan. Yes, that's the thing I was going to say. Let's just say, for instance, let's just even say they both, heaven forbid, they both lose. In boxing, it really is. plenty of money at stake. People still want to see it. People might hate Zarafa, but they love Tim Tszyu. A little bit going back to the Green Mundine days. Green was the good guy. Mundine was the bad guy. But guess what? They made a shitload of money together. It just makes sense. And I know a lot of people say, oh, what are they taking Zarafa on for, buddy? You know, they've bent. No, they haven't bent. It's just good business sense. And you wait. In 6 to 12 months' time, when these guys are probably going to fight each other, it'll all come together. They'll all make shitloads of money. And as I said, there's no middleman in there messing things up and wanting this and wanting that. No Limit will control everything. Whether it's... The interesting thing might be if Tim happens to lose and Michael wins, Tim is still No Limit's sort of golden goose, I suppose. Does Zarafa then start to... Does he know his place in the scheme of things, even though he might be the world champion? Or does he just bend to No Limit? Because at the end of the day, Tim's still going to be the A side, even if he loses the world title fight and Zarafa wins. That's just the way it is. But good business sense. All right, a couple more. Signing out, training in the morning. Good to have Zarafa back. Everyone needs to accept Zarafa's team have done a number on him. Now it's all systems go. 100%, Paul. Thanks for joining in, mate. Yep, and look, I think all parties it suits. The boxing fans, no doubt, down the track. It'll make good business for all, especially when we've got a big pay-per-view in 6 to 12 months' time with Tim Tszyu and Michael Zarafa. All right, guys, that's it. We've hit the 2-minute mark. Really, 2-hour mark, I should say. Really appreciate you guys coming on. And what have we got there? One last comment from Paul. Good to get to know Zarafa, and you'll see how much of a humble bloke he truly... Yeah, he is. Look, I'll be the first to admit he hasn't done himself any favours at all in some aspects, in different things. He's upset the fans, and a lot of fans don't really like the way he goes about it. But at the end of the day, he deserves respect as one of Australia's best fighters. And I just don't think he deserves all the hate that he got for what was bad advice. I know he didn't conduct himself in the best light. Really, in my opinion, really bad move. Digging the heels or digging the boots into Tim and trying to disparage Tim and disrespect Tim. Tim's a very well liked and respected boxer in Australia, and that was a really bad move. And I'm sure that was Michael's doing. The Mickey Hatton comments and all that sort of stuff really didn't win him any fans. But if you really get to know the guy, he's actually a good guy. Trains hard, sacrificed everything. So even if you don't like him personally, still respect him as a fighter because I think he deserves it. So anyway, last question here. James Daly, Tszyu looking forward to fighting Crawford, Triple G, Alvarez and Joshua. Yeah, I see Usyk was thrown in there as well. Maybe Tyson Fury. Probably one of those times where you probably got to say to Tim, I know he's probably, a lot of it might have been a bit in jest. Maybe just staying in his lane at the moment and worrying about the next fight rather than Anthony Joshua or Justice Honey even. I know that was mentioned, but anyway, look, big fights out there for him, but the Zarafa fight still makes sense. Don't worry about that. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'm out of here. Again, make sure you watch tomorrow night at 7:30 on this channel with Mike Altamura. He's going to be on with the Mike Altamura Hour. Check out the Dream Fight, Robbie Pete and Lester Ellis. Awesome. Put your tip in the poll on Instagram. Always plenty happening on the Deep Dive channel. Of course, Thursday night we'll be back with Tassie and myself with a preview to his weekend show in Tasmania and all the other shows that are going on. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.